should have had my overnight oats.
Welcome on into the Wise Guys. I'm John Tortorelli with my co-host Brennan Capozziello and Justin Wright. And today we'll be discussing J-Ray's Super Bowl reactions, getting him into the fold after Valentine's Day, our Ravens and Steelers offseason previews. We've got a lot of Steeler fans around here because our biggest video on this channel is in Pittsburgh, where I had a hot take that didn't age so well. And then we're going to shift gears to the NBA. Can the Knicks make the conference finals, Justin, with Jalen Brunson's recent play and a little bit more Jock Vaughn's comments about Ben Simmons' fall race.
What's up, gentlemen?
Howdy.
I miss
Howdy,
you.
partner.
I'm
You've
so
been
sorry
hiding.
I missed out. I did not want to be in the doghouse for Valentine's Day, so I had to
You've been
stay out
hiding,
here with
man.
my lady.
You've been hiding.
And one more special topic for today, our top 5 quarterbacks of all time. So it's going to be an interesting episode. J-Ray, Brett and I talked a good deal about,
Length.
at length, an hour, about the Super Bowl and some of the issues we had. The grass turf was crappy. The call at the end, he didn't agree with. I didn't quite agree with. You know, one thing that I found interesting was the Eagles' defense. I want to get your takeaway. Was the Eagles' defense fraudulent after being up on mediocre NFC East quarterbacks like Daniel Jones all year?
I wouldn't go as far to say fraudulent. I just would want to say that they met their match. I think that's where you got to give credit to Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, Matt Nagy, and everybody else on the offensive side of the ball for the Chiefs, because that defense did show up against every single opponent that they've played. Like we've mentioned many times before, 70 plus sacks on the season. I mean, and they were held to 0 in the Super Bowl. That's more of a credit to the offensive line. That's a credit to, like I said, everybody on offense. So I'm not going to go as far to say this is a fraudulent defense. No, they were up 24-14 at one point. They were doing their job. It's just Patrick Mahomes overcame. That whole offense overcame. The defense did their job, made stops when they needed to in the second half. They made the adjustments. Had they not made the adjustments, we'd be talking about this Eagles defense as one of the best that we've seen in a long time. So I would not say fraudulent. I think that's a little too far. You guys mentioned the grass in the Super Bowl. Dude, that was disgusting. What I think Jordan Mailata said, it was like playing on in a water park or something like that.
Yeah.
That it was disgusting. I mean, they play these Super Bowl games indoors for a reason. You know, just so there's no effect with weather. So you'd expect the playing surfaces to be as close to perfect as possible. For that, you open it up to everything.
Justin, did you see the thing that was going around about the quote unquote turf or grass?
No, what's up?
So apparently there's a report going around that the NFL spent 2 years and over $800,000 on that field. And that's what came out of it.
And that's what came out of it?
Yes.
Wow, the NFL needs to be really ashamed of themselves.
Yeah. Multi-billion.
A lot of their stars like that.
Multi-billion-dollar company, and you create that. It's just that was the surprising to me. I asked John this question. We both said we believed it was turf. What do you think? Was it turf or grass?
I don't know. Wasn't grass kicking up out of there? It looked like dirt.
It was a grass turf.
It was grass?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, Justin, I looked at a stat, and this kind of didn't shock me because we saw it all year. The Eagles' defense gave over 32 points per game to good quarterbacks. Against Jared Goff, they gave up 35
Week 1.
In week 1. Yeah. Absolute shootout. Against Trevor Lawrence, Jaguars got 21. Against Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers and my man, 33 points hung up against them. The Cowboys, 40 piece. And the Chiefs, 37. The Eagles' defense relied on that pass rush at large. And against the Chiefs, when they didn't get it, you put a lot on those cornerbacks like James Bradbury. We talked a little bit about his relationship with Juju Smith-Schuster, little Valentine's Day shoutouts. I felt like their defense was good, but they weren't quite good enough against the run. And against top-flight quarterbacks, we saw them again get beat by the pass. I still think Darius Slay is he's a great player, but when you look at the rest of that secondary, James Bradbury, you're not getting to the quarterback, he'll have those bad moments, those rough patches. And I guess Tebow Samuel and Brandon Ayuk had a decent point. There were some vulnerabilities in that Chiefs defense, and the Eagles defense, and you best believe Andy Reid found them.
Yeah, no, he definitely did. I mean, those 2 touchdowns to Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney were a perfect example. They saw how they were when they switched, and they did a terrible job at it on those 2 plays. literally gave up easy walk-in touchdowns. But on the Super Bowl, all in all, about the Kansas City Chiefs, you just can't really say enough about how spectacular their run has been over the last 5, 6 years. Since Patrick Mahomes has became starting quarterback, or even as far back as since Andy Reid took over in Kansas City, fielding competitive teams year after year after year, and then really just missing the quarterback to elevate their game. And once you got it, they took a risk in Patrick Mahomes and had him sit for a year, and since then he's become somebody that now we're going to be debating as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time for years to come. So during the game, watching it, they were down 24-14. I don't think any one of us even batted an eye and said this game was over. I think we've seen this Chiefs team do more than one remarkable comebacks over Patrick Mahomes' career. So not one bit did I doubt that the Chiefs were going to come back and win this game. Credits to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts really put on a show. I mean, outside of the fumble, for anybody that was debating what Jalen Hurts can be and what he is, I think he shut a lot of people up on Sunday. So that's a great thing for Philadelphia moving forward. They're gonna have to pay him out the wazoo, but hey, it's worth it. You can't win without a quarterback in this league. But yeah, I think the Chiefs. One thing I'm gonna say, I'm tired of people saying they won a championship in a rebuilding year. Not one person, I don't think, at least on our show, had them outside of the top 8 entering the season.
No one had them missing the playoffs. No one was that dumb, right?
Yeah, nobody had them outside of that top 8. And if you did, then somebody has to go get your brain checked, because not one person saw Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid falling that far off a cliff. Yeah, we expected some regression, because when you take out arguably the most explosive wide receiver in football, you don't know how a quarterback's going to react, especially when that's all he's been playing with all his career. And he showed us exactly what he will be in week 1 of the NFL season. So it wasn't a rebuilding year, maybe a retooling year, absolutely. And now they're primed to go out and win even more next year and the years to come. I think this Chiefs team is really going to set themselves up to become one of the best dynasties we've seen in a long time.
Well, I mean,
not a long time.
Chill out.
But they're gonna dominate for a long time.
Assuming yes. But we have no idea how the NFL plays. We've been fans for a while now. We've seen how, shoot all the way up one and then you come crashing down another. Not saying it's going to happen, but we just have no idea what's going to happen. But what I wanted to ask you, Justin, is because you didn't comment on it, is how you felt about the flag.
In the time of the game, obviously it was a great Super Bowl, and you hate to see it be decided that way, but it is the right call. It was a flag. I mean, we could debate whether it's a flag or not, but the guy that made the hold said it was a flag, said he did it. So can't really be mad at it. It happens. I hate that it came down to that, but if we were on the other side of that as Patriot fans, we would be, lit up in flames, pissed off about it. So it was the right call. Do I wish he didn't throw the flag? Because, it's that late in the game, and I hate that a game is decided on the refs' backs that late. Yeah, and probably not. Let the guys play.
So, but Justin, so here's what I say. Well, non-objective Patriots fans will be that way, but I think the obvious objective ones can look at it and be like now, dude, the tuck rule. I mean, that was a fumble. It was not an incomplete pass. I'm not going to sit here and freaking lie to you people. All right, like that was a fumble. All right. Even Tom Brady, who kind of is tongue in cheek with it, when he had that 30 for 30, I think it was, or with Charles Woodson, where they sat down and watched the game. Even at the end, he kind of slipped up, had a Freudian slip where he said something and Charles caught him in it. But listen, this is what I'll say to you, Justin, and just hear me out for this point, right? Because you said it's a flag, And Bradbury, who did come out afterwards, said that he did grab him, he did tug him, and he hoped that the refs were not going to throw the flag. And me and John had a pretty lengthy discussion about this. First, you got to take into consideration how the game has been called the entire way through. All right, Bradbury got away with an probably even worse grab earlier in the game in the first half, and it was not called. We knew from Jump Street that game was not being called the way games are called in the regular season, where they're calling ticky-tacky stuff all the way through. They're letting them play football. And a point I made to John was, I think everybody here on the show can agree, and I think all football fans can agree, that's the best type of football. That's the best product to see on your TV, or if you're at the game, is a game where the refs aren't as much as involved and the players decide the outcome of the game. So what I want to reiterate to you, because I know you didn't get a chance to check out our last show. First, I want to know, what do you believe the flag was on? Was it on the initial contact or was it on the secondary contact?
I thought it was on the hold when he was turning upfield.
So the secondary contact. Okay, so if it was on the secondary contact, right, that's ticky-tacky at best, and it was not a flag. All he had was his hand on his back. So what I told the John is, and he believed the same thing you did, it was the secondary contact that the flag was thrown on. I believe that the majority of people think it was the initial contact where, Juju cuts in and then he cuts out, and you can see that Bradbury gets his hand on him. That's what I believe people believe the flag was thrown on. If that was the flag, the initial contact, the flag was thrown incredibly late. Also, John, I did actually finally see a clip of the flag being thrown. It was a kind of an overhead shot. You want to know when the flag was thrown? It came just across the screen. It was thrown when the ball hit the turf. The ball was already incomplete. That's when the flag was thrown.
Yeah,
so Michael Wilbon, hold on, Justin. Sorry. I got to call Michael Wilbon and Ryan Clark on national television. First Take lied to the people because they said the flag was thrown on time and the refs didn't swallow it. They didn't throw it late. You lied because I saw the flag now. I saw it, and the ball was already incomplete. So if it was the initial contact, the flag was thrown incredibly late, and I absolutely despise that in any sport. And yes, he said it was a tug, and respect to James Bradbury, but this goes back to a discussion me and John had when you weren't here, Justin, too, the episode previous, where we talked about the hip drop tackles. If you heard that report, that they're planning to have an active discussion, and me and John did not like that at all. We think that defenders are, being told to think way too much before they even make a tackle. Now they have to care about your safety while they're tackling you. And we both despise that. We think that, well, me personally, I made this point. You got to throw the defenders a freaking bone here. Just throw them a little bone. So there is contact allowed within 5 yards. And I've seen the screenshot people sent around of the actual ruling. You're not allowed to grab and you're not allowed to tackle inside of 5 yards, but you're allowed to make contact. I'm sorry, but I'll go as far as to say, if you're not like completely grabbing and making an insane tug or basically tackling the guy, I'm cool with a little hand checking and whatnot. And a little jersey grab if it's not insanely, abhorrent. All right. Because I need the defenders to be throwing a freaking bone here. I want physicality to be brought back to the game, because it is football and it's a physical sport. It's a violent sport. So that's my whole point with it. I hate it. And I know you said the game shouldn't be decided on a flag. It shouldn't. Like, either one of those should not decide the outcome of a game. And people saying it didn't, it 100% did, because there was no time left on the clock. The Eagles had no timeouts. So that's my whole point with it. I hated it every way through. I have a problem with either of the contacts, whichever the flag was thrown on, I have a problem with. And yeah, I don't appreciate that being thrown there.
Yeah. Jared, I want to shift the gear a little bit to the Eagles offense. So Jalen Hurts played a fantastic game. I thought he outplayed Mahomes. The Mahomes played a great game, better in the stat sheet. Would you pay Hurts $44 million this offseason, go all in long term, and feel comfortable if you're the Eagles given how the Carson Wentz saga ended?
I'd probably hold off. I'd go another year, man. I think I mean, only perk about paying him now is if he goes out next year and wins an MVP, that price tag goes up even more. So it's probably, I guess it's better to just pay now than have to pay more later. So I would say that, yeah.
It's also risky too because he doesn't have the 5th-year option. So after this year, his
Mm.
4th season, he's going to go right into the market. Unlike most first-round quarterbacks that get that opportunity.
You know what's crazy? I saw a wild stat. Also, not really a stat, but that Patrick Mahomes, his big 10-year, $503 million deal. By the time Herbert, Lamar, all these other guys sign their contracts, he's probably going to have the 7th highest cap hit.
Yeah, Brad and I were talking about that a little bit, where he was only taking up 17% of his team's cap, and most quarterbacks are taking up more than that.
Mm.
Which, Pat Mahomes,
No,
he's a
no.
wizard.
Our discussion, Justin, he's lying to. Our discussion was that he said Patrick Mahomes is taking a pay cut like a Tom Brady, and I said no, he's not. He's making his money. It's just more down the line. Tom Brady took considerably under market value. Guy was making
Mm.
25 million or less. This last year, he made like 15, 18 million
Yeah.
dollars. That's complete. Like Mahomes, you read the contract out, John. He's making 55, 59 for 2 of those years. That's still insane. Brady never sniffed that in a single year. That was my point.
Yeah, that is insane. But yeah, if I'm the Eagles, I guess you pay him now. You don't want to. Yeah, he wins an MVP next year. Oh man, have fun with that price tag. Because imagine guys like you're gonna have to pay Devontae Smith at some point. I'm assuming Miles Sanders isn't gonna be sticking around the way
He's a
everybody.
free agent, Justin.
Yeah, so I view a lot of people around the league view running backs, even you guys, as replaceable. If you're not putting up Derrick Henry like numbers, then I'd say you could find somebody else.
Yeah,
So I
Miles
could see,
Sanders, he can go.
yeah, Miles Sanders is probably out. James Bradbury is gone. He's a free agent also.
They've
Yeah.
close to a dozen free agents, and I made this point. They could probably sign a good amount of them to a 1-year deal until the Hurts contract kicks in. So you can retain Javon Hargrave. You can probably go cornerback in the draft. And then if Fletcher Cox retires, you have Jordan Davis to plug right on in. I think the Eagles are in good shape and in prime position next year to be the favorite in the NFC. But it's really going to depend on, I guess, just health for that team, like any team. Because the 49ers, if they had some health at quarterback, I think they would have played in the Super Bowl. Not like the Eagles had much of a fight in that game. So, would you guys like to talk about our top 5 quarterbacks of all time first, or off-season preview?
Let's hit in that top 5 quarterbacks.
Top 5 quarterbacks of all time. Now,
How do you guys want to do this?
top 5 quarterbacks of all time is a weird thing because when you ask that question, I think we all expect it to be the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But when I do this, I sometimes think of the best quarterbacks I've ever saw and the best quarterbacks of all time. So, which one are we going with here? What's going to be the criteria?
Okay, the criteria is as always has been, and I don't understand why people have created this alternative
Football's a team
criteria
sport. That's
like
why they
you.
make
No,
this
no, no, no,
alternative.
no, 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 no. Because John, I'm sorry, but you again, you're a smart man. You listen. You have 2 ears, okay, just like everybody else, and you hear how these players talk to each other, okay, and how they pull out. Their instant pull out is what? What do they bring up instantly? Kiss the freaking rings, okay? So if they're making their own argument with the rings, then I am allowed to make the argument too with the rings. Are you going to sit here and say to somebody on a team that won a championship, if they told you, John, I'm a Super Bowl champion, I won a Super Bowl, or I won an NBA Finals, you're going to sit there and tell them, no, you didn't. You were part of a team that won. That's what you're going to tell them? So I want to hear it. Is that what you're going to tell? And is that what everybody else is going to tell that person? Like, are you going to sit there and say
Troy
Brandon
Aikman a top
Jacobs?
5 quarterback of all time?
No, are
As
you gonna sit there and say Brandon Jacobs didn't win a Super Bowl for the New York Giants?
I feel like this is irrational coming from a defensive.
It's not irrational because this is where the criteria gets a little foggy. So the criteria has been what it's always been. It's you take the person's career in its totality. So I'll put it to you like this. Talent, you look at talent, pure talent. You look at accomplishments and accolades. You look at the stats. You look at the intangibles. You look at the eye test. longevity, and consistency. That is how you range a player in an all-time great category. Those are the things you look at. That is the criteria.
The talent thing is just who's the best quarterback. That's it. Who's the best quarterback? Who has the most accolades? That's what we're gonna do. Let's keep it simple. Consistency / longevity. Longevity, performance.
No,
I always love to do the who would you rather have in your prime? In their prime, you know? I feel like that's a big way to
And that's who would
dictate.
be the best quarterback peak for peak. Not everybody
I think
has
that's
the same
one of the-
criteria as you do.
that's not how it's been. I know people always like to change it. That's not how it's been. People like to change the narrative and the argument to fit their own argument so they can make a better case
Well,
for
why are we
somebody that
having
they
this
want to put
conversation?
in there.
We're
That
having
is the
this
thing that they're
conversation. We've
doing.
had Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes hasn't played long enough to be in the top 5. So that's why I asked that question.
Well, so longevity, you want to take longevity out? Longevity doesn't matter anymore because you're the guy who's making the case for LeBron James over Michael Jordan, and longevity was a key thing in your argument.
Yeah.
You just null and voided your own argument. I can't hear you.
2 different sports. Patrick Mahomes.
Come on, man. You can't do that, John. Stop with the cop-outs. 2 different sports. We do it all the time. We compare things.
No.
You're allowed to compare things. They're sports, man.
When you're ranking all-time players, football is much more team-based. Basketball is more driven off of stars. I mean,
we understand that.
So how are we gonna do this top 5? Are we all gonna go?
we'll go on Brand's way.
All right, but I'm saying, are we starting with 5 and you do 5, then I'll do my 5, or
That's fine.
We can do that.
I mean, if you want to take longevity out of it to put Mahomes in there, that's fine by me. But the other things are completely plausible to look at in terms of how you rank a quarterback all time or just current day.
so let's see what you got, B.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
All right. So my number 5 all-time quarterback, I go with Drew Brees. Greatest, well, not greatest. Most accurate quarterback in terms of percentage. You let's go look at the stats. I believe he has the most 5,000 plus yard seasons. He doesn't have the record anymore for single season. Peyton broke that, I'm pretty sure, in his Denver Bronco year. But yeah, he was robbed of an MVP in 2011. I truly believe he deserved that over Aaron Rodgers. I just think I believe Drew Brees is very underappreciated. I wouldn't say underrated, underappreciated. A lot of people don't talk about him because of, the years where the Saints didn't have a great defense backing him. And even though he was putting up MVP numbers, they were going 8-8, 7-9, and the defense wasn't able to do anything. But you saw when the defense was there, Drew Brees was there. I mean, a lot of people tend to forget that the infamous other insane non-flag that was thrown, Saints-Rams, where that one is the most blatant flag you could possibly get at, and nobody would have a problem with you throw the flag and you swallowed it there. But yeah, I start off with Drew Brees as my number 5 quarterback of all time.
Respect. My number 5 quarterback of all time is a former Pittsburgh Steeler, Johnny Unitas.
What? Was he really a Pittsburgh Steeler?
He was drafted by the Steelers in 1955 and then later waived by the team. Johnny would go on to be a 10-time Pro Bowler, 5-time.
Wait, John, are you pulling our chain right now? Is he really your number 5 quarterback of all time?
Yes.
Okay, because I wouldn't believe that if you would have told. Okay,
Pre-1975, pre-merger, he was the best quarterback. And a couple of different options: Otto Graham, Fran Tarkenton playing the 70s with Terry Bradshaw. But Unitas I'm going with because he was the quintessential quarterback before the 80s, before Marino, before Elway, before Favre in the 90s. And I want to give him a shout out here. 3-time AP MVP, 1-time champ, and the best player from the 1960s. Old head here.
I respect that, John. I respect that. You're wrong, but I respect it.
I respect that. I just, you guys know me when it comes to old school, when it goes that far back.
Justin hates old people. That is, he is an ageist. Justin is an ageist.
Old people are very sweet. They're very sweet people. They're very kind, but not in my top 5. My top 5, my at least 5th, like Brandon, I did put Drew Brees on that list. I'm one of those guys where, I like to put people on my list that I've actually seen, and I've seen, Drew Brees' greatness for basically all my life. And Brandon hit it right at the nail on the head. The guy was throwing for nearly 5,000 yards in 7 and 9 seasons. Drew Brees at second all time in passing yards, I believe second all time in touchdowns as well. That's not by an accident. That's not because he was stat padding, and it's not like he was playing. I mean, besides Marquise Colston and a couple other guys that he had, until Michael Thomas and them, he didn't have any game breaking wide receiver like an Andre Johnson or Calvin Johnson at that time either. He was just putting up big time numbers with guys like Jimmy Graham, and then Jimmy Graham left, and he was still kept throwing up numbers. I think Drew Brees very much so is underrated and not talked about enough when we talk about greatest quarterbacks, because had he had a very good defense, I'd say he'd be competing in way more NFC title games. I think he's only played in 2 or 3 in his career. And the first 2 happened way back in what, 05 and 2010, 07 and 2010. So yeah, if you just gave that guy a good defense, I think we'd be talking about Drew Brees playing in a couple more Super Bowls. And we got robbed of a Drew Brees Tom Brady Super Bowl.
We did.
We got robbed of a couple of great matchups. Yeah, another thing on Drew Brees is the road he had to travel from Miami, where he actually, or not, sorry, Miami, San Diego, where he actually played pretty good in San Diego, and then he had the terrific, terrible injury, I should say, where some people thought he would never play again. He didn't. I don't think he passed the physical to go to Miami. That's when Nick Saban took over as the Miami Dolphins head coach, and then he went to New Orleans, and the rest is NFL history. He was able to obviously overcome that injury and, for me, become the 5th greatest quarterback of all time. But also, just you brought up a great point. Look at the weapons he had to, he created Marquise Colston. Marquise was a 6th or 7th round draft pick. Yeah. Jimmy Graham was nothing after he left Drew Brees. I mean, Aaron Rodgers couldn't get anything out of him. Russell Wilson couldn't get anything out of him. It was Drew Brees that made that guy. People were saying he's the best tight end in football when Gronk was at his peak of powers. Yeah, that's how great Drew Brees made him look. And then you got those other underrated guys that are, I'm foggy on their names. I know they had the speedsters and some other guys that play with them. Reggie Bush, I know they had the running back for a little bit, but yeah, I love Drew Brees. And I think, if the argument probably would be like, oh, he had Sean Payton. It's like, I will never discredit somebody for having a great head coach or great teammates around them. I never will do that, because I just don't think it's fair. You need a great team to have success. We all understand that. So yeah, I'll give more credit to a guy who doesn't have that around him and has great success, but I will not take away credit from somebody who does have that, especially when they're that consistent. Like, yeah, go ahead, John.
Some of those other receivers you may be thinking of are Lance Moore.
Oh, yeah.
With Drew Brees.
Yes.
Kenny Stills.
Yeah.
Kenny Stills. There's a T in there. My apologies.
I know he had 10 good for a little bit.
He did at 10 to Ted. 10. Jesus.
10.
And there's some years as well. Michael Thomas. We've seen since then, Thomas has gone from being top 5 receiver in the league all-time season to playing 8 games the last 3 years. Obviously, Brees is not the only reason why Thomas has fallen off. But there are a lot of different receivers where he made them a lot of money. And I respect you guys for taking Brees there.
All right, so next up for me, number 4. I'm taking quoting Stephen A. Smith, the bad man himself, Aaron frickin' Rodgers, the 4th greatest quarterback.
I'm so happy you said that, because I got so much shit on Instagram for saying that he's a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, it's because of how spoiled people have been they compare him to a Montana or a Brady, when you shouldn't do that. Like, 1 Super Bowl is phenomenal. Okay, it is. You did something a lot of people don't do. Okay, I mean, I don't think Dan Marino is going to be on our top 5 list. He's in my top 10, but he's not in my top 5. He never won a Super Bowl. Like, it's incredibly hard, guys. It really is. So yeah, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, 4-time MVP in the regular season. I think that's second all time to Peyton, who has 5. 4-time first team All-Pro, 1-time second team, 10-time Pro Bowler, 4-time passer rating leader, 2-time passing touchdown leader, a passing completion percentage leader. This guy is going to be booked in first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, he's got the best touchdown interception ratio in NFL history, 475 touchdowns to 105 interceptions. That's ludicrous.
You know, his biggest comparison was Dan Marino. People compared him to Dan Marino, and I believe Dan Marino has almost 100 plus more interceptions than Aaron Rodgers does.
We have not, and I guess they would compare the arm talent, but we have not seen a quarterback. And this goes back to the Mahomes versus Rodgers talent debate, and I take Rodgers in that discussion because of this fact. We have not seen a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, where he is so accurate.
Patrick Mahomes?
No, because he turns the ball over way more than Aaron Rodgers does. Aaron Rodgers has a season where he threw 48 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. That's literally unbelievable numbers. Okay. He also has a 45-6 season. 40-7. I could literally keep going. It's absolutely ridiculous, John. So we have not seen a guy like Aaron Rodgers. Mahomes has put up a couple of good seasons with less than 10 interceptions, but not like Rodgers.
I'd say this year wasn't far off. 308 a game, 1 MVP, just 12 interceptions. And when you look at the fumbles too, because that comes into the turnover equation, he only had 1 lost fumble on the season.
John, he went 11 straight years with throwing under 9 interceptions.
I like the quarterback who produces and actually wins the Super Bowl too.
See, he did win a Super Bowl again. See what I mean, Justin? See what he did? He did win a Super Bowl.
John, I ask you, if Aaron Rodgers is playing with an Andy Reid, does he have more than 1?
Yeah, without a doubt.
I think head coach means a lot in this conversation.
Like, again, I get your point.
But is Aaron as coachable as Patrick? That's another question here.
There's also, a respect thing too. I think Andy Reid walks into a room, I think he commands your respect.
Wait, did you just say Aaron Rodgers is not coachable? See, again, I think you're looking at the Aaron Rodgers now and not the Aaron Rodgers that came out in college, because if you knew, Aaron Rodgers' throwing style got completely reworked and changed out of college because it was funky and bad. So he's shown that he is incredibly coachable. You're looking at the Rodgers now, who is completely sure of himself, and you're goddamn right. He has a say in how he does things because he's Aaron frickin' Rodgers, and he's shown you that he can be an MVP in this league every single year. That's how damn good. When you are that good for that damn great, you get a couple of perks. You do. So Patrick Mahomes will be afforded that very soon, if not already. That's my 4th greatest quarterback of all time, John. I hand it.
John, before you go, I'll take it because I also have Aaron Rodgers 4th. I'm assuming that you have somebody different.
Oh, I think
at that 4th spot. And he's smiling. He has that Joker smile. I know that he has somebody else. But yeah, so much like Brandon, I do have Rodgers as my 4th all-time greatest quarterback. He gets a lot of crap for his postseason appearances and everything that says that he's a crappy playoff quarterback. I always say, when I talk about LeBron, I say you can make so many excuses for his career in the big moments. And I could say the same thing a little about Aaron Rodgers when talk about the Seahawks game, a botched onside kick. You hang on to that. Packers are going to the Super Bowl. Packers defense has been historically bad when it comes to those NFC title games, whether it be getting absolutely fried against the Atlanta Falcons and so many games where the defense let them down. And I'm not going to say Aaron Rodgers is completely, not at fault for any of these games because, yes, he's made his mistakes as well. But when you have a much more complete team, we probably see Aaron Rodgers in a couple more Super Bowls as well. So I'm not going to knock his playoff losses and say this is going to put him out of the conversation. He did win a Super Bowl. He did beat Troy Polamalu in that tough Steelers defense when he was a young buck. And his what year was that when he was starting? Was that his third year as a starter?
It was his third
Second year as a starter.
Second or third? Okay, second year as a
Second year as a
starter.
starter.
So I
And he
don't think
ran
you
the
can really
gauntlet, by the way. He went 4-0, so he had to start on the wild card and went
all on the road.
Yep.
Yep. So you got to give Aaron Rodgers his respect, and I know over the last couple of years, he's his name has come into light, and whether it be how you feel about his stance on vaccinations or whatever, that none of that matters. Aaron Rodgers on the field is one of the most legendary. What happened?
Just be curious.
Is one of the more legendary quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah. Also, Justin, John might bring up the losses against his faults against San Francisco. Like, let's not forget San Francisco had a top flight defense every time that they played each other.
Every time.
That's like saying Tom Brady. That's like saying Tom Brady had down games against Baltimore, or Peyton had down games against New England. Like, these are great, units going at each other. Yeah.
Great teams.
Units.
He was outmanned.
Units. Yeah. At times on his side, he didn't have the defense to back him. Yes.
Or the special teams.
Yeah, Mason Crosby.
Many of those games. Right. Well, I've seen many games where the special teams has come.
Mason Crosby won him that game against Dallas.
I remember the backup tight end who costed him in Seattle. Brandon Ballstick.
No.
Packers legend. Yeah. Too soon.
I remember his first playoff game was against that Kurt Warner led Cardinals, and that game was insanely high scoring. I think it went into overtime, and the last play was Rodgers getting sacked and he fumbled the ball. But just showed you he could go tit for tat with you.
He could. I mean, those Cardinals teams are very fun with Carson Palmer and Bruce Arians.
Yeah, you can say that because you got one up on them.
I did.
Not on Carson Palmer.
Steelers I did. Yeah,
the Steelers beat the Steelers.
Yeah, Bruce helped us in those Super Bowls. He was on our side the first time we played them. So my fourth greatest quarterback of all time. It's a little bit funny to me. I've went back and forth between these two guys. And I really don't want to pick the same quarterback as you two.
Oh.
So
no, if you believe it, John, just pick the guy. Don't just be different to be different. I hate that.
I'm having a hard time here, but when you're trying to find the slight edge and it's like a toss-up between these two quarterbacks, it's like, oh, man. And that's why I'm going to go with Peyton Manning at number 4. So
that's look at the low for me.
Yeah, it is a bit low for you. How about the Super Bowls, Justin? I remember 2013, one of the greatest quarterback seasons in NFL history, the greatest to me, but it can't be. He had 3 turnovers against one of the greatest defenses of all time, and his team lost by 35 points. I look at his Super Bowl win in 2015. That was a year where Peyton was done at that point. Brock Osweiler played a pretty big role as well in that playoff run. In the Super Bowl, he had 141 yards and no touchdowns. Peyton Manning, all-time, maybe the best regular season quarterback. But I look at the Super Bowls and I'm unimpressed, quite frankly. Now, 5-time regular season MVP, that holds a lot of weight. But when you enter this realm, my friends, we have to, as Brand says, take everything into consideration. And with the guys I have coming up next, I don't think Peyton was a big enough big-time performer in the biggest of moments to be in my top 3.
No, that's the argument against Peyton is the playoff shortcomings and the Super Bowl shortcomings. We all know Peyton wasn't the best in outdoor weather. So yeah, I mean that is the argument, is just not having that much success in the postseason. So it's a fair argument.
I'm sorry, but I really can't name 3 quarterbacks outside of Tom Brady that are better than Peyton Manning.
You just name one of them.
Yeah, we all know who his number 3 is going to be, Justin. So I guess let's go on. Since you hit Peyton Manning, I'll go number 3 all time. Obviously, the Chief, the Commander, Omaha, Peyton Manning. All right. This guy was basically, he changed. I mean, John didn't mention this guy literally changed the game in terms of how quarterbacks are looked at and how quarterbacks call the game. He was basically an offensive coordinator on the field. Peyton ran the show. 2-time Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP, 5-time NFL MVP, two-time offensive player of the year, comeback player of the year, because you remember he had the bad injury. He had to do something that Drew Brees did where people thought, is this guy going to even be able to throw the football ever
Neck
again?
surgery. Yeah.
And then he came in and had 3 pretty damn great seasons until he fell off the cliff in the last one. 7-time first team All Pro, which is absolutely ridiculous. That's got to be the record. 3-time second team All Pro, 14-time Pro Bowl. I could go on and on and on. Like John said, he's arguably the greatest regular season quarterback of all time. I think it's really him, him and Aaron Rodgers and maybe Drew Brees are in that conversation. But I just can't get over Peyton because of how the game and how many current quarterbacks and how many quarterbacks that we just named looked at and studied Peyton Manning to become Peyton. I mean, Brady looked up to Peyton, admired Peyton when he was coming up because Peyton was the it kid before Brady got in there. Even though Brady was beating him, Peyton was putting up the numbers. So I won't slight Peyton. I love Peyton. He did have his shortcomings in the Super Bowls and in the postseason, but gotta give that man his respect. The Chief, first ballot Hall of Famer Peyton Manning.
The newly inducted first ballot.
Yes, respect. Shout out.
So I think I pretty much gave away the rest of my list anyway. When I said what I said about Peyton Manning. So for number 3, I'm gonna go Joe Montana. Joe Montana obviously anchored one of the greatest dynasties in football history, if not the greatest or second greatest behind New England. Joe Montana played with the greatest wide receiver of all time, elevated so many people's games, probably without some injuries, probably goes on to win some more Super Bowls, more than 4. And I think one of the things that stands out to me about Joe Montana's career is even after he left San Francisco, he still went on to KC and had a great year with them too. I think Joe Montana is the closest thing to probably what we could say is a Tom Brady, and Tom Brady, embodied his game after him, idolized him growing up. So I'm gonna go with Joe Montana at number 3.
Okay, Jerry, I see you. Now, you don't know which other quarterback I was talking about before, but you clearly think I'm talking about one of 2 guys, though.
Wait, John, before you go,
John's about to drop Patrick Mahomes.
I want to get mine out of the way. My number 2, because Justin just mentioned him. My number 2, the second greatest quarterback of all time, is Joe Montana, Joe Cool, or as in the Waterboy they said, Joe Montana. All right. Thought I'd get a little bit more of a pop out of that. I messed up. But before Tom Brady was the GOAT, it was Joe Montana. So that's where my disagreement with Justin is, and I know he's probably going to put Peyton number 2. I don't think you can do that because Tom Brady was chasing Joe Montana. And it wasn't until Brady became the GOAT that he uncrowned Montana. So everybody knows before Brady was the GOAT, it was Montana. He was chasing him. It was the 4 for 4. Montana was basically the MJ that Tom was chasing. Like I said, 4 for 4 in Super Bowls, never threw an interception in the Super Bowl. Arguably the greatest Super Bowl quarterback of all time, if you look at his numbers and his performances. In an era where passing wasn't obviously as prevalent as it is now, the guy put up some pretty good numbers. He didn't win his MVPs until basically his last 2 starting seasons in San Francisco. But dude, in his second season starting, his first season starting, he got put in halfway through towards the end. But his first season starting in 1981, played all 16 games, 13-3. And had a 64% completion percentage, which is outrageous for 1981. That is mind-boggling. 3,500 yards, which is pretty goddamn good for 1981. And he went on to win a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP, I believe. So for me, it is Joe. And also just, he's a part of one of the greatest dynasties of all times too, the San Francisco 49ers, which also bled into the Steve Young ones. But you also got to give the credit to Joe and Bill Walsh, who really revolutionized the passing game as well. The passing game we know now, West Coast offense is what started. It was built off of what Bill Walsh and Joe Montana created with Jerry Rice as well. I shouldn't forget him. It's based off of what they created back then. We have just taken it obviously to a whole nother level, but the basic and fundamentals was Bill Walsh and that 49ers offensive system. So you got to give them credit to that. They were way ahead of the time. I give my credit to Joe Montana. We all know the catch or the drive. I think John brought that up, the 92-yard drive against the Cincinnati Bengals in the Super Bowl. So for me, it's Joe Montana, number 2.
So Montana's not my number 2, but I do want to add on to that. A little fun fact. Montana didn't get Jerry Rice until after their second Super Bowl, after they beat Ken Anderson and Dan Marino. And then by his 4th Super Bowl against John Elway, that guy has 5 touchdowns and not a single turnover, as like Brandon said. Big game Joe Cool. If there was any quarterback I wish I could have flashed back in time to watch, it would have been Joe. Out of all the quarterbacks, Marino, Elway, Bradshaw, any of them. Favre, I was just old enough to watch. It is far and away Joe. Because as Brandon said, before Tom Brady, the best quarterback was Joe Cool. So my number 3 will be Aaron Rodgers. And it's a little bit of a funny one, right? Because I have him above Peyton Manning. Why exactly is that? Look, I think the Packers organization, since their 2010 championship with an elite defense, has completely failed Aaron, whether it's been coaching, special teams, or defense. Utter failure. And at 39 years old, I think this guy's better go to whether it's Vegas or the Jets and continue to build off his legacy that he's already established as a 4-time league MVP. This last season, he was pretty good, a top 6, top 7 quarterback. And keep in mind, the guy is showing no signs of slowing down. Now, we don't see the signs of slowing down till you slow down, like Breeze, like Manning. But I believe with Aaron, he takes much better care of his body than most of these other guys, and that he can play into his 40s. So I want to give him his respect on that note. Didn't become a starter until his age 25 season, so he's going to his 15th year as a starter. But as Brandon said, when you look at his ability to take care of the football and the plays he makes, there's not a more bad man. Honestly, I have all the veterans today, not somebody you trust more among the old heads, because of course we have Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, the old timers, the guys above 30 years old. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is the last quarterback from our childhood that's extended the gap between the days of Favre, Brady, and Breeze to nowadays Burrow, Mahomes, and Josh Allen. And I really do believe he's going to put on 2 or 3 more all-pro caliber seasons. This year was what would be an aberration. This guy is absolutely a top 7 quarterback. And I've seen some people dare to say that Jalen Hurts may be a better quarterback after this year. Let's slow it down a little bit because he has had no meat in the bone around him. And I even think for Matt LaFleur, although as well as Mike McCarthy, he has done wonders for his head coaches. Yep.
Yeah, think about this too, because Stephen A likes to bring this point up. Matt LaFleur, when he got the head coaching job for the Packers, his offense in Tennessee was ranked 20. It was either 22 or 27th in the NFL. And Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs with that guy. Go ahead, Justin.
Or number 2, right? Number 2.
Number 2.
Because I feel like you guys weren't too kind to him. I mean, you guys respect him, but when you look at his playoff stats, you know, that's the thing you guys want to highlight. His playoff stats, his Super Bowl numbers, all of that. Peyton Manning, the sheriff, is my number 2. John, you said it. Greatest regular season quarterback of all time. 5-time MVP, Hall of Famer, first ballot, no debate. Probably one of, if not the smartest quarterback of all time. Guy called his own plays, and he had head coaches like John Fox, Jim Caldwell. I'm not disrespecting them, but they are not on the level of Belichick or an Andy Reid, even a Mike Tomlin or a Harbaugh. I don't see them on that level. So Peyton Manning was never playing with no Hall of Fame coach outside of Dungy. And, you know, you guys want to throw all these postseason numbers at me. Can anybody tell me what's his record in AFC championship games?
Well, he's been to 4 Super Bowls, so he's got 4 wins. And he's been there 5 times. So Peyton Manning is 4-1 in the AFC championship game.
Yeah. He's beaten Tom Brady 3 times in the AFC championship game. The Manning brothers have stopped Tom Brady from about 5 more Super Bowl appearances. The one thing standing in Tom Brady's way, and they knew it going into each and every year. And this is the thing. If I know for a fact, both of you guys have Tom Brady number 1. His lone competition, the one person that constantly was standing in his way to get into a Super Bowl, it was always going to be Peyton Manning. That was the person that he had to beat in the dance. And when he got to the AFC Championship game, as much as I love Tom Brady, against Peyton Manning had the upper hand 3 times. That says a lot. And this is, and I'm talking Peyton Manning shredded a New England defense. I think his second to last AFC title game where he threw for almost 400 yards against us. 2 touchdowns, no picks. Went on to go to the Super Bowl. They lost. Even the year that he won the Super Bowl, his final season, when he beat New England in the AFC title game, still was just a hell of a game manager. I think he didn't throw for over 200 yards. It was about 170, 160, still 2 touchdowns, no picks, no turnovers, which is unlike Peyton Manning. But in those last 2,
the Carolina one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 141 yards in that Super Bowl.
Yeah, and 2 touchdowns, no picks. I'm talking in the AFC title game.
Oh, my fault.
Yeah, okay. AFC title game. So when you guys mention all these playoff numbers, yeah, it's sure we can point to the New Orleans Super Bowl where he threw the pick 6 that, pretty much iced the game. Or we could talk about the Seattle debacle. That was probably the worst Super Bowl I've ever watched in my life. Okay. But other than that, I'm not going to use those against him in his argument as one of the greatest of all time because I honestly believe, I don't think there's really much of a debate. I think if you sit down and you watch Peyton Manning's career in its entirety.
It's not much of a debate.
No. If you watch his career in its entirety and you tell me outside of Tom Brady that there's a quarterback better than him, I think you're absolutely nuts.
What if I told you, Jay, right? 1 Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers has as many touchdowns as Peyton Manning in 4.
Doesn't move no needle for me. Peyton Manning still has 2 Super Bowls and 4 appearances. Aaron Rodgers has 1 Super Bowl and 1 appearance.
Yeah, but we also have to take into context, Justin. We have to take into context.
No, because you know what? I feel like too many people. What happened?
The second Super Bowl, they could have won with Brock Osweiler.
Yeah, it was.
And the first Super Bowl,
like we bring up.
You think they win that AFC Championship game with Brock Osweiler?
Against who?
Against
what was Peyton numbers in that game? That game
they
was
got bailed out by Pittsburgh in the divisional round. The Steelers are not.
That's my point. It was 20-18. Peyton Manning played a near perfect game managing game that you could ask for. He didn't do too much. He did just enough. You're telling me that New England wouldn't have baited Brock Osweiler into 1 turnover? We don't win that game with Brock as a quarterback?
They baited Peyton into a lot of stuff too.
And he did not throw a pick.
No, not in that game. I'm talking in his entire career.
In his entire career, sure. But I'm talking in that game, like him saying that they could have won a Super Bowl with Brock Osweiler. I don't even think they get past Tom Brady with Brock Osweiler. Granted, Osweiler did beat them earlier in that season, in the regular season in Mile High. But I really can't think of any quarterback that stacks up next to a guy like Peyton Manning.
So we're looking at his AFC Championship games now.
Yeah,
he's a player coach.
He was 53% completion percentage in that game, just against New England.
Yeah.
176 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interception. His QBR was a 36.
Didn't turn the ball over, right?
No, he didn't, but he had a 50. He completed 17 of 32. Okay.
Yeah, the guy's arm was hanging off the side of it.
That's what we're saying. I know. And then you want to look at his Super Bowl numbers against Carolina, 13 to 23, 100.
I'm not giving him all the credit for that Super Bowl. That's all.
But he had an 8.6 QBR in the Super Bowl.
That defense, the defense carried him. Sure.
That's what we're saying to you.
Yes, that's fine.
It's the same thing
but at the same time, he still needs to do his job. Did he turn the ball? No.
If we're looking at Peyton Manning's entire career, we gotta look at the 41-point demolition versus Chad Pennington in 2002. If we're gonna look at his entire career,
back to
we have to see. Yeah,
Brady went 6-0 to start off against.
Look at his entire career, January 4th, 2003. Jay Wright. I look at his entire career and I see some embarrassing first-round exits. He had over 6 And then I look at the AFC Championship games, and I'm not looking to disrespect Peyton, but when you say he was the guy, and there's no way you can have anybody else at number 2, I look at his first AFC Championship game versus New England, 2004. He had 4 interceptions in that game.
Okay, and then since then, what did he do
The
in
second
the
time
AFC
around,
Championship game?
in 2007, he played a pretty good game. Completed 57% of his passes, 349. Third, he played very well against the Jets and got into the Super Bowl in 2010. The Reggie Wayne play, the Reggie Wayne pick 6. Reggie, the legend is, ran the wrong route. I'm not going to hold that against him, but he lost against the Saints in the Super Bowl. We then moved to 2014, and that's 2007, excuse me. We then moved to 2014, and he had a 400-yard game versus the Patriots. Balled out. Got into the Super Bowl. And that Super Bowl, what happened?
Yes, they got absolutely shellacked.
Smacked up. And
Which
you
was on
can't
everybody.
tell me,
Not that wasn't on just Peyton. That was everybody.
yeah, no, but you can't tell me that you weren't absolutely shocked when that was going on.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, that's the worst Super Bowl I've ever watched in my life. But I'm not, like I said, you guys are throwing Aaron Rodgers there and comparing the two. Like Aaron Rodgers' playoff success is anything.
That's why I have Aaron Rodgers behind Peyton.
See, and you're a good man. You're a good man, Brandon.
Yeah.
Because
but I'm not going to put Peyton number 2.
Nuts.
I'm not going to put Peyton number 2, Justin, because you can understand as a football fan, Brady was chasing Montana. So for that simple fact, your argument is null and void. When you know yourself as a Patriot fan, going through this, lived through it, you knew he was chasing Montana. He was not chasing Peyton. He had already passed Peyton. Manning could never get to Montana.
But still, even with that, Brady's highest respect went to who? Peyton Manning.
Because he played against them.
That was his greatest competition.
Yes.
He never played Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. That's why.
Huh?
He never played Aaron in the playoffs.
He did play Aaron. He beat Aaron in the playoffs.
One time.
In Green Bay.
In Green Bay.
But again, Justin, I'm not disrespecting Peyton by putting him number 3. Okay?
No. That's fine. But
I think you're doing is you're forgetting where we were 7 years ago when Brady beat Atlanta. Because I guarantee if I could take a time machine and talk to that Justin, he would not have said Brady just surpassed Peyton to be the number 1 greatest quarterback of all time. You would have said he passed Joe. So how in the hell, in the last 7 years, did Peyton Manning surpass Joe Montana without even taking a single snap in the NFL? How is that possible?
I think Peyton Manning surpassed Joe Montana just based on his regular season and his 2 Super Bowls.
So Peyton surpassed. So hold on. Peyton surpassed Joe before Brady did?
Peyton surpassed Joe on Super Bowl 50. Once he got that second ring.
One?
Yeah, that second ring. That's
so what you're saying is Peyton.
But see, the thing is, Brady was my
greatest.
Brady was my greatest before that. I never even debated that. So I'm not arguing Brady over Peyton.
No, because I've asked you this.
From the
jump. No.
From the jump.
You said
after Seattle.
No, you didn't say that.
Nope.
No, you
How
said
we didn't even know each other then.
No, I asked you this when we were on the show, not on the show, we're off air. You said it was Atlanta Super Bowl.
What?
That he became the GOAT.
Yo, my dude, I could pull the owner of the deli up the block from my house, man. I have been saying Tom Brady was the greatest of all time since I was a child. Before I even understood things.
All right, you know what? Fine. I'll give you that point. Whatever. That's a mute point. Because then how is this possible? How in the hell do you have Peyton surpassing Joe with that Super Bowl performance? How is that possible? That playoff performance.
It wasn't so much
that
about,
season.
It wasn't so
How
much
do you
about
have Peyton surpass Joe after that season? How is that human?
It wasn't the performance.
17
it was
interceptions.
Putting the freaking ring on the finger. That's enough.
So Trent
number
did,
2. That put me on that. I'm like, yo, Peyton has it, bro. Peyton has it. There's no quarterback that like I said, one of the greatest managers of the game of all time. Like I said, called his own plays, no matter who his head coach was. He did not have a Hall of Fame coach. He did not. So remember that. No Hall of Fame coach.
Tony Dungy's a Hall of Fame coach.
Who?
Tony Dungy's a Hall of Fame coach. And he won his Super Bowl with him. He won his Super Bowl with him.
Outside of Dungy.
He won his Super Bowl with Tony Dungy.
Outside of Tony Dungy.
He didn't win a Super Bowl with Jim Caldwell.
All right, good night. Good night.
It's just that your argument doesn't make it just because he put a ring on the finger. So you're just gonna ignore
Didn't
9
we
touchdowns.
didn't we
Why
say
are you
so
interrupting
much
me?
about
Because you know
rings?
what I'm about to say is factually correct.
What?
How are you gonna ignore 9 touchdowns to 17 interceptions that entire season where he was getting benched for Brock Osweiler? All right, and that
Yeah,
playoff
but
performance.
we're also talking. That's so unfair to even use against him because
No,
it's
it's not.
how
Because
is
you're
it
using
not?
that? No,
We knew
because
the guy
no,
was
no.
injured and all.
We know he was injured. That's what I'm saying to you, Justin. I'm coming at you because you're saying that Super Bowl made him
And he
better
still
than
did
you.
enough to win a Super Bowl, even after that regular season playing injured.
Could they have won a Super Bowl with Brock Osweiler?
I don't think they beat New England with Brock Osweiler.
I think you're smoking crack.
No, well,
If you don't think Brock Osweiler's not a good quarterback, if you don't think Brock Osweiler can complete 54% of his passes, throw for 176 yards, and
again,
2 touchdowns and no
as
picks,
I've said
you're out of
before,
your
I
mind.
think it came down to Peyton didn't turn the ball over that game. He played. Obviously, it wasn't spectacular. Not turning the ball over against New England is the
It was
key.
a run-first offense, Justin.
In his first AFC title game against New England, he threw what? 4 picks. You lose a game that way. He didn't turn the ball over. Brock Osweiler would have turned the ball over. That's what I said before.
You don't know that.
You don't know that.
None of us do.
I know that he
Remember
can.
that.
I'm
No,
pretty confident.
You don't
Justin,
know that.
I'm pretty confident Brock Osweiler can put a 54% completion percentage, 176 yards, and just as good as a 36 QBR. I'm pretty sure he could do that.
Peyton Manning
look,
had probably the second greatest, well, before.
And the only reason
Patrick
he
Mahomes.
won
This
that
all
Super Bowl
the
started
greatest season of a quarterback,
because of the 2-point
and he passed Brady's greatest season.
This all started just because of the simple fact I took Aaron Rodgers over Peyton Manning. That was the reason.
No, it started because he put Peyton over Joe, which is factually does not make any sense.
That's actually a great
It
point.
doesn't make any sense,
How does
Justin.
it
I just explained
factually
it to you.
not make
Actually,
sense?
because
Factually not make sense when we're talking. Even if you just now
Because
we're just
Joe
focusing
Montana
solely on
actually
playoffs.
played
No, we're
well in
not.
the Super
No, we're
Bowl.
not. Joe
And now we're just
Montana
solely
was a
talking about
2-time
playoffs, because if you want to
MVP.
talk about regular
Two-time,
season
sorry,
football,
3-time
who
Super
has
Bowl
one of the
MVP?
greatest regular seasons of all time? Second,
Peyton has
Peyton.
has 2 Super Bowls. Joe Montana has 3 Super Bowl MVPs. End of the discussion. He played in an era.
So now we're doing
decades
it's
before.
just straight ring talk now. It's just
No, he
okay.
has two.
So
No, no,
if we're gonna do that, John, if we're gonna do that ring talk, take Aaron Rodgers out.
No, if we're
Take
going
him
to
the
ring
hell out.
talk, who played well in the playoffs? Who showed up in the biggest of moments? Aaron did against the Steelers. Against the top 5 Steelers defense, 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, played one of his best games.
Once.
And guess what? That's the thing.
Justin,
Okay.
That one
But
opportunity
since we
he
want to
had.
do the ring
got
talk,
him.
take him
Because
out.
his
I got
teams
him.
failed him again and
I
again
got
in the
him.
playoffs.
Yeah, you got
Coaching,
that. Come on.
I got
special
you.
teams.
Come on.
You look at that game versus
I got
Seattle
him. John,
and
I got him.
defenses. The defenses that Aaron Rodgers had were historically poor in the playoffs.
Yes.
He would have great games. We talked about it against the Cardinals. What can you do when you're putting up 35 points, but your opponent is putting up 38?
John, I got him. I got him.
Peyton Manning wasn't playing with no elite defenses towards his tail end of Indianapolis.
No,
Nothing was compared to what we had
Well,
in New
they
England.
gave him a second Super Bowl.
No, he
So
did not
clearly
play a
the
de-
defense
he
gave
did
him
not
half
have
of
a
his Super Bowl
defense
titles.
like
If
a
it weren't
New
for that
England.
defense,
He
he'd
did
have the
not have
same
a
amount
defense
as
like a
Aaron
Pittsburgh
Rodgers.
or a Baltimore. No, he did not.
he didn't. He didn't. When he won his
Even the
Super Bowl,
defense he played in the Jets was
No.
better than anything he had.
Okay, let's do this.
Well,
Let's
hold
do
on.
this.
No, John,
Let's
I
no,
got it.
no,
I got
no,
it.
no.
I
That's
got
not
it,
true.
John.
That's not
John,
even.
I
That's
got
not
it.
even
Trust
true.
me, John,
That's
just
not.
trust.
We have to go over this.
I
Listen
know,
to
but
this.
just trust me. I got it. I got it, man. I got
I
it.
have his defensive rankings. And
No,
it's-
I know, but I got it, dude. Okay, yes, but Justin, he won when he won that Super Bowl against Rex Grossman. That was his best defense. Okay, Bob Sanders played a full season. He had Dwight Freeney. He had Robert Mathis.
Correct.
Okay? We're not going to say that you don't need a great team to win a Super Bowl. But here's where I got you, Justin. Did you say he's the greatest regular season quarterback of all time,
Listen,
right?
I'm not going to change my mind.
No, I know you're not, but I got your ass. I got you. You say he's the greatest regular season quarterback of all time, right? Which is fine. I'm not going to argue that. He's right there. It's between him, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers. What's more important to you, regular season or playoffs / Super Bowl? Just answer the question. Don't try and be split.
I'm not even answering this
Because
because
you know I got
they
your
both
ass.
matter.
No,
They
I
both
understand they both
Because if
matter.
we're gonna
Which
do-
one matters more?
If we're
Which
going
one?
to just do ring talk,
It's
if
not
we're-
ring talk. It's the
Okay.
performance in the Super Bowl. Please explain. Just answer. All right, you don't want to answer the question. We all know why he doesn't want to answer the question because he knows he has to say playoffs because it's the factually correct statement to make. So if that's the case, I give to you 68 completion percentage by Joe Montana, 1,142 yards, 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He has 127.8 passer rating. That is the NFL record in Super Bowls, 4 for 4. All right. Which one's more? Which one would you rather have? That performance in the Super Bowl or 5 regular season MVPs? I rest my case.
I'm not
I rest my
entertaining
case.
this.
Let's talk about these defenses, Justin. That
At least we all agree on number one.
Real quick before we jump to Tom Brady at number 1. So in 2005, these were
giving you number
defenses.
2, John. John, is your number 2 Joe?
Yes, I said
Okay.
before. So 2005, Colts had the second best defense in points allowed. 2006, 23rd. 2007, first, the least amount. 2008, 7th defensive ranking. 2009, when they went to the Super Bowl, 8th in the NFL. 2010, 23rd is last year there. So more of those years in the back end, he had a top 10 defense. One of those years, one of the very best in football. So clearly his defenses were not bad. A couple of years they didn't play as well as you would like. In those games, he was knocked down in the first rounds. With Aaron Rodgers, we flipped the page. I want you guys to consider this with Aaron. The years where he had MVP caliber seasons, and his defenses failed him again and again. So there's this narrative out there that Aaron Rodgers chokes in the playoffs, and I think it's one of the most misconstrued narratives in all sports. So after he won the Super Bowl in 2010, has one of the best Super Bowl runs in recent years, 2011, go to the NFC Championship game and lose 20-13 versus the Giants. Giants were a great team. They didn't play as well as you would have liked. 2012, he puts up 31 points, but what can he do when the 49ers put up 45, and they go into the Super Bowl? 2013, 20 points, didn't play as well, but, I mean, you talk about the support that Aaron had in those years, 2013, those Packers teams were not on the same level as the 49ers in terms of the running game. Eddie Lacy in that performance played well, 81 rushing yards, but at large, the Niners were a better overall team. Even still, Aaron didn't play his best. 2014, this was the iconic one, right? So he has the comeback versus the Cowboys in the divisional round. Then the conference championship game, they blow a multi-score lead, and you have the infamous, not only the defense blowing it, but also the Brand Bostic. When a team kicks an onside, all you have to do is not screw up. Brandon Bostic botched what would have been an easy play to send the Packers to the Super Bowl. That was the NFC title game. That play would it still blows my mind to this day. I'm speechless talking about it. 2015, they beat the Redskins 35-18. They move on to the Cardinals. Carson Palmer and those Bruce Arians teams were better, and the Packers lost. 2016, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Beat the Giants in the wild card. You then beat the Cowboys in the divisional round 34-31. This was the iconic play against Dak Prescott, where you go blow for blow, and Aaron Rodgers is one of the most stupid drives in NFL history, setting up a game-winning Mason Crosby field goal. Then they play the Falcons and the conference championship, lose 21-44. Yeah, I mean, Aaron had 3 touchdowns, 300 yards in that game, and it's not really helping his case that his team had, what is this? Outside of him, 50 yards rushing. So he had half the rushing yards in that game. 2017, missed the playoffs. 2018, missed again. These were the injury-riddled years, the last years with McCarthy. Move on to 2019. And that was the year where he lost to the 49ers, again, for a third time in the conference championship game. Rodgers in that game, 326, 2 interceptions. He didn't play his best game, but Garoppolo threw 8 passes. 8. Can you blame Aaron Rodgers for Raheem Mostert having 220 rushing yards on his defense? Can you blame him for that? These are the types of years that Aaron Rodgers had to go through, and that's why he never made it to the Super Bowl. His teams failed him again and again. Many of those other years, like 2012, 2011, I can give you other reasons why. Just BS, bizarre reasons that you can't blame the quarterback because Aaron played fine in those games. Did he maybe stoop down a level? Yes, but he was never the reason his team disappointed. It was always something larger. Move on to 2021. Tom Brady, the one-time play in the playoffs. Brady had 3 interceptions in that game. So Cowboys, why do I keep calling the Cowboys? The Packers, they got a lot of help, that offense. Rodgers only had 1 turnover. He actually had 346 passing. But in that game, his team had, I don't know, 67 rushing yards against the Buccaneers. So they couldn't get the ground game going. Aaron played a fine game. And Tom Brady, the one that played, edged him out 31-26. I'm not going to pin that all on Aaron.
Nor am I. But this doesn't change anything to me.
This is not like him throwing 4 interceptions, though, against the Patriots and his first AFC Championship game. Or him having a 53% completion percentage in the second biggest game of his season. This is Aaron Rodgers playing good football, and his team's not playing good football themselves. Raheem Mostert has 200 rushing yards in you. What are you going to do? What can you do at that point? If Aaron's not on the field...
There's nothing you can do.
Exactly. So the one Super Bowl thing never got back. It was not his fault. And if he goes to New York, playing the Jets.
Yeah,
I don't disrespect Aaron Rodgers. I've agreed with that 100%. As I said, when I started talking about Rodgers, I said you could make a ton of excuses as to why he's lost his playoff shortcomings, at least. So I'm not going to argue that. I stand by what I stand by, man. And we should have a buddy of mine on to talk about Peyton Manning. I'd say a Peyton Manning stan.
That's all right. You guys are wrong. It's fine.
And by the way, Joe Montana's my number 2. How many quarterbacks can say they beat John Elway, an MVP, and Ken Anderson, and Dan Marino? Pretty good competition.
And those Dallas Cowboys. Joe Montana. So on to number 1, which we all agree is the GOAT, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. And do we even really need to lament on what he's done? We all know it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1.
We don't want to be here all day, so we won't.
Yeah, we give respect where respect is due. It's not even a debate at this point.
A goddamn handsome man, too, at that. Should have that.
Glad you got that in.
It's going to be very weird watching football this year without him.
It will, and I'm pretty excited to see Patrick Mahomes because, Mahomes is my honorable mention. Let's dig into those a little bit. I've got Mahomes, I've got Drew Brees, I have Elway, I have Marino, and I have 2 Steelers and Big Ben and Terry Bradshaw. There's one more guy in there. Brent's just like, what the hell? You didn't include Brett Favre. He is too, but I want to give my shout out to Ben and Terry. Terry, 4-0 in the Super Bowl, so that's pretty important. Only 2 other guys, actually 1 other guy, I can say he's 4-0 in the Super Bowl. That is so cool. And, I think in 3 or 4 years, Mahomes, we would expect him to. I'm fully invested in him making 1 more Super Bowl. And with a little bit more longevity, he will be in my top 5, taking Johnny Unitas' spot.
Yeah, for me, I don't have Mahomes in my top 10 yet. Listen, it's not a disrespect on him. It's just, there's a career that has to play out for me, and I need to see how it plays out before I just shoot him up there. I have all the faith that he will be there, just not yet for me. I have Brett Favre as my 6th greatest quarterback of all time. Then I have Steve Young, John Elway, Dan Marino, and my number 10 is very interchangeable. I have Kurt Warner written down there, but he's the one where I could easily take him out and flip somebody else in. I won't die on that hill.
I would. I don't have Kurt Warner on that top 10 list, but I'll easily throw Patrick Mahomes in that top 10 for what he's done in this short amount of time. I don't think we've seen a career start as nearly as explosive as this guy's has. I think he's going to win another ring, and we're going to be talking about, okay, now when is he going to stop? Is it going to keep on happening? Is he going to keep on rolling through the AFC at this pace? I think the craziest thing about it is, we look back at the Tom Brady AFC days. We had Phillip Rivers, Big Ben, Peyton Manning, Tom, and we could keep going. But the Ravens defense, the Steelers defense,
Jets defense,
the Rex Ryan days, yeah,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, Rex Ryan days. So there's so many things that you could point at, and now with Patrick Mahomes, you look at the AFC and how many quarterbacks there are. it's absolutely stacked as opposed to the NFC, where we're probably looking at an NFC where Dak Prescott might be the best quarterback in the NFC going into the new season. So, I mean, he has a ton of competition. And if he's going to be playing in divisional rounds against the Bills, AFC championship games against the Bengals, ah, I think we're going to be forced to throw him in a top 5 if he keeps on doing what he's doing.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah,
he's
he's gonna
Drew
have
Brees. And
this road, like you said, Justin. You only named 2 teams that he's got. I mean, I was thinking about it last night.
Baltimore, like
You got the Bills, who have been perennial contenders. You got the Patriots, who are retooling, and you can never count out a Bill Belichick led team. You got the Dolphins, who started off incredibly hot, kind of fell off, but they still got the talent. The Jets, who John and I know a lot of Jets fans believe they might get Aaron Rodgers. You don't think they'll be contenders if they get him. You got the Bengals, like you said, Justin. You got the Ravens. If they re-sign Lamar, they'll still be a threat.
did you
If
mention
Deshaun
Bengals?
Watson can knock that rust off, you best believe they'll be a threat. The
Mhm.
Steelers might be a little bit down the line, but if Kenny Pickett takes a massive jump, they'll be a threat. You got the Jaguars, who are a threat in the AFC South. If the Titans can somehow get a quarterback better than Ryan Tannehill, you best believe they can be a threat. And then you got Mahomes' own division with the Chargers, who are going to be healthier next year. And Kellen Moore, I think, is going to make a massive difference for Justin Herbert. You got Russell Wilson, who can Sean Payton fix Russell and make that team a contender. And you got the Raiders, who have an insane offensive talent. If they get a quarterback that we all believe in, who knows?
Mhm.
That's an insanely stacked AFC.
Did you even mention the Bengals in there?
Yeah, he
Yeah, I
did.
said the Bengals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
First team.
Patrick Mahomes' road to the Super Bowl for the next couple of years. I mean, this year alone, that's tough, but for the next couple of years, it's going to be an uphill battle. So if he continues to absolutely destroy the AFC the way he has, and I think
Which he has.
which he has, yeah, and if he continues that, like I said, he'll be catapulting into that top 5 very fast, very fast.
And the fact that every single year Patrick Mahomes has a new playoff moments. His second playoff run, first playoff game of the season versus the Texans, comes back from 24 to nothing. In the Super Bowl the following season, this man is down by 10 points or 9 points and comes back in the fourth quarter to get a W. A year later, 13 seconds, the guy leads a game-winning drive in 2 plays. And then, I mean, this year,
That run.
well, the stat sheet won't show it, right? Him playing on one leg, that was one of the more impressive performances I've seen. And Jalen Hurts played a phenomenal game. That was one of the most cool duels because while the numbers didn't stack up, we knew Mahomes was making the right plays. And the second half, he and Andy Reid, outside of Brady and Belichick, there's not a coach quarterback duo I trust more. And the big time plays, getting out the pocket, scrambling one leg. The guy is a special type of leader.
Yeah.
Why'd you shrug right there? Did I say something crazy?
Well, I mean, I just Bill Walsh and Joe Montana.
No, I might be taking Mahomes and Andy Reid. Yeah. He doesn't need all the extra stuff. He just has Andy.
What's extra stuff? What extra stuff?
He doesn't need Tyreek Hill.
You're acting like Travis Kelce is some bum. Best tight end in football, dude. He's starting to be talked about as one of the greatest tight ends of all time.
Mhm.
He's only second to Jerry Rice in playoff touchdowns. Don't act like Mahomes has scrubs out there he's playing with. This isn't the Brady offense for the first 3 Super Bowls.
All right.
Deion Branch was the best receiver for the last 2.
I knew you were tying Tom Brady reference in there. So I don't know if you have enough time. Do you guys want to talk about the NBA still at the end of the show?
Yeah, we can talk about it real quick.
Okay, so moving over to our offseason preview first. Big time news came out yesterday that the new Ravens offensive coordinator will be Todd Monken, who is leaving Georgia. He is one of the typical passing game coordinators. He's a pass heavy coordinator. And you look at the years for Greg Roman, those are offenses, whether from Buffalo and his time as an assistant in the pass, were run heavy. So a total 180 here by the Ravens. And this offseason, they are 7th in cap space of $41 million. But Lamar is going to be worth $41 million for the next 4 to 6 seasons. So the biggest question, the looming question with this team is number one, do you get the deal done with Lamar Jackson? And then with really no cap space at all left over, what's going to happen here to guys like Marcus Peters and Justin Houston, who are pretty key free agents in 2023?
I think this is a huge offseason for the Ravens. I mean, coming off of a season where Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley had to play a playoff game for you, that's not exactly what you're hoping for. You have an MVP in Lamar, and there's I'm not gonna presume, but some people say had he had his contract done, he's probably out there playing that playoff game. Don't know if that's necessarily true, but all in all, you have to get this contract done. That's your number one priority because one, nobody's going to Baltimore if you don't have Lamar there. Nobody's signing there. You're starting from scratch if you're getting rid of him. Sure, you could get a glutton of draft picks and maybe some NFL ready talent, but if you don't have that guy under center, you're not competing. So first and foremost, you have to sign Lamar Jackson. Second, you have to find some way somehow to elevate that offense. I always believe the Baltimore defense is going to be there. For some reason, as long as Harbaugh's there, I believe that they'll have a defense that can contend and compete. If you cannot get Lamar Jackson a receiver, then I understand some receivers may be hesitant to go there because of that run-heavy style offense. But if you get somebody that can buy into that, if you get somebody that, like, if you draft a guy like Zay Flowers, if you make a trade for a DeAndre Hopkins, that can instantly elevate your offense. And then on top of that, with Duvernay and Rashad Bateman, right there, now you have an elite receiving core immediately. You have to get some offensive talent to surround Lamar Jackson. No more with just Hollywood Brown and the rest of the crew. No more just, your running back being the best player on the offense. No, you got to get some weapons there on the outside. Honestly, I think who's his best receiver that he's ever had outside of Hollywood? Is it
Outside
Crabtree?
of Mark Andrews, tight end.
Outside of Andrews, is it Crabtree in his rookie year when he came in?
Him or Hollywood a year ago. Hollywood a year ago, 1,000+ yards, 140 catches or targets, 100 some odd, 110 receptions.
No, outside of Hollywood, outside of Andrews, you can't.
Yeah, I mean,
There is.
They're pulling teeth here. It would probably be Crabtree. It's the only other guy.
Yeah.
Willie Snead.
For me personally, this is how I would look at it. And I'm going to look at it as the Ravens organization, because this is just how I've been thinking about it. If I was a Ravens organization, I'd be doing kind of exactly what they're doing, which is, Lamar, you're going to accept the deal that I'm offering you because I'm not going to go any higher, because I think that their worries are very valid. Their worries are, injuries. How long can he be sustained even for a single season? He's shown that he gets hurt towards the later end of the season. And can he be a consistent thrower of the football at the highest level? Those are valid concerns. So if I'm the Ravens, I basically say, Lamar, you sign the contract we offer you, or they can't trade them, right? Or do they technically own his rights that they can do like a kind of sign and trade, I guess? I don't know if that's more NBA. Can they do that in the NFL?
It's tough. You'd have to go negotiate an extension and then move him.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I think they can do that. I'm not.
What are you getting for Lamar?
Well, you're getting probably what they want. I think starts 3 first-round picks,
and they will never get that from Lamar.
I think that there's a sucker out there that will give it to him. You don't think the Titans?
I have my own opinion, but continue.
Well, remember, it's not just 3 first-round picks. It's 3 first-round picks plus $240 million.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, if you're willing to dive in and drop 3 first-round picks, I think you're willing.
Yeah, you have to pay
$50 million. So yeah, I that's where I stand on that. If I'm the Ravens, and you know what? If I can negotiate that trade, and let's say I only get 2 first-round picks and maybe a pretty good player or something, maybe a third or whatever, I'll take that. I'll take it because I do believe that there is a ceiling with Lamar, and I don't think that you can win a Super Bowl with him unless you surround Lamar, Me and John had this conversation last episode. Unless you surround Lamar with the type of talent Jalen got this year, you're not winning the Super Bowl with that kind of quarterback. And guess what? There's no way you can surround that Lamar Jackson with that talent if you're paying him $240 million plus. This is it. It's just not possible. So that's where I stand on it.
I'm not fully guaranteeing Lamar.
Yeah.
For the last and let me repeat that. I am not fully guaranteeing Lamar a contract because the last 2 years, the guy's been hurt in December. If Lamar needs everything to win, a great offensive line, good receivers, and a good enough defense, and he's making $220 million, he can't get all of that. So you pick your poison here. You A, look to get a quarterback that, hey, look, yeah, new offensive coordinator, new system, will be cheap enough on a rookie contract to give him what that guy will need, or you pay Lamar and deal with the reality you are guaranteeing a top 5, top 3 contract, the biggest contract in football to an average thrower of the football that can't stay healthy and has one playoff win. And that probably won't change if he's making more money than this rookie contract. I think the Ravens have handled this well. I mean, Roquan Smith was fantastic for them in the season. Now, do I agree fully with paying the best linebacker $100 million? That's the eye of the beholder. But I do know with Lamar Jackson, what has he really given you outside that MVP season where he had everything? And it's not a shot at a former MVP. It's acknowledging we've probably seen the best years of Lamar in his age 26 season. And if you give him this fully guaranteed deal, as we've seen with many quarterbacks that get that second contract that rely on the athleticism, in due time, while Lamar can have 1 or 2 good seasons, the back end 3 years of that deal, that could be pretty bad if he's missing half the year and just like the 12th best quarterback in football, which is what he has been when he's dealing with these injuries the last 2 years.
Okay, injuries aside.
No.
Actually,
you're right.
You're right. Let me not say that. If Lamar's on the field for that playoff game against the Bengals, they win.
Yeah, big time.
They win. So the concerns of
injured Lamar or fully healthy Lamar.
I even think an injured Lamar wins that game. I
tend to think because I always I understand where you're coming with the what ifs and stuff. It's just if you add a Lamar to that team, I think that the Bengals obviously play a completely different game and their game plan is different. It's just the whole game basically is turned on its head and they play a completely different game. But I see where you're coming with it, Justin.
Yeah, but I'm just you slide in Lamar. I feel like they're in a much better position to win that game. As close as that game was, I do believe the Ravens are much better than people actually get to see because of the injuries. John, you said if you need everything around him to be good for him to succeed, kind of like Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. I don't necessarily say it has to be up to par with that. All I'm asking for is just a little bit of talent on the outside to make passing more of a concern for defenses. When you got receivers like Bateman and Duvernay who aren't consistent, granted Bateman is still young and still getting, his feet wet in the NFL. He was injured this year, so he couldn't play his full second year. They're not going to respect your passing game. You don't got nobody out there that fears they're afraid of. They can press them. They're not afraid that they're going to break that coverage. No. They're just going to worry about Lamar the whole time. So if you get yourself that real number one, I think it opens some doors. We talk about all these quarterbacks that get receivers in their third year, like a Stephon Diggs, like a Tyreek Hill.
There's just one problem, Justin. When they extend Lamar, they'll have $0 in cap space.
And
very little.
Okay, so if you're the Ravens GM, what would you rather do?
You notice something with all those quarterbacks. So Joe Burrow, rookie contract. He got Jamar and T in the rookie contract. Tua, rookie contract, helps you get Tyreek. Look at Jalen Hurts, rookie contract, AJ Brown. All of those quarterbacks, Josh Allen that gets Stephon Diggs, are on small rookie contracts, rookie scale. They're not making $200 million. They're also in the second, third years. No, Lamar's in the 6th year. He had Marquise Brown last year. Marquise was a top 10, top 15 receiver, top 10 stretch, top 15, top 17. And we saw with Lamar, what was the Ravens' downfall? It was really his health, right? They fell off a cliff once he got injured. And so if this is the asset I'm taking on, I am shorting Lamar Jackson because I see where this is going. And we have seen this in the past. Look, Father Time's going to come sooner for these quarterbacks. Lamar is a winner. You can't take that away from him. He's had a great MVP season. But when you look at the last 3 years, you can't have both. You can really only have one here. The rookie contract of a quarterback and a great receiver to support him, or Lamar for that fully guaranteed deal and not that receiver. I think the Ravens missed their ball here. Windows are short in football. They're 2 or 3 years. That window just passed.
But it's also the Ravens whiffing on receivers, not getting a big dog in the draft. We've seen big guys come out of the draft.
That is true, and I don't think that they're going to be able to. I mean, maybe they take a receiver in the first round this year again. We'll see if they hit, but obviously the names on the trade block are the biggest names are D Hop and Brandon Cooks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think they're getting either of those guys because of John laid out the contract situation. I think Brandon Cooks is making 20+ million. So you're not getting either one of those. And I don't think Brandon Cooks is a really good receiver, and I loved him for the Patriots, but I don't think he's going to be that number one that puts Lamar over the top. I think D Hop has a much better shot of doing that. But
yeah, absolutely.
I just look at it and I say, I still don't think that's enough when you look at the division they're in and the teams that they have to go up against, where they have more of a complete team, and the Ravens are still trying to kind of play catch up right now. And I do agree with John. Like, we're not sitting here trying to disrespect Lamar, because I absolutely love Lamar. I love the dog mentality. I love the winning nature, like John said, the competitiveness. This guy is a true winner, and he's going to fight you to the bitter end. But you can't be a perfect quarterback. Not everybody's a perfect quarterback. You know what I mean? You're going to have your weaknesses. You're going to have your flaws. And we know what Lamar's flaws are. They're injuries and being a consistent elite thrower of the football. So I agree with John. I think if the Ravens, if Lamar wants too much and the Ravens are like, no, we're not giving you more than X dollar amount. Like, this is our limit. We're not going over that. And Lamar, obviously, it looks like he wants more than what they're offering him. I think it's in the best interest for the Ravens to say, thank you for your services, Lamar. You've done a hell of a job for us. We loved you. We respect you. You won an MVP for this team, but I think it's time for us to part ways, and best of luck in your future endeavors.
That's such a very tough move. By making a move like that, you're instantly throwing yourself in purgatory.
No, whoa, no, my friend.
You don't think so?
Real quick, before I made an honest mistake.
Because the thing is, it's just finding a quarterback.
So two things. First things up, Marquise Brown talked about before. I said he had 110 receptions a year ago. He had 90, so I made a mistake. But the second thing is, if you extend Lamar, you're going to purgatory. That is committing to a quarterback that can't lead you to a playoff win without all the full 9 yards. He needs everything, and that cannot happen. So unless you nail one of these receivers in the first round with a couple of speedsters, even then, Lamar has not shown to be able to be healthy in December, the most important month of the season, and he is not a consistent thrower of the football. I mean, we look at him relative to Jalen Hurts. Hurts is further along, and he's only in his second team starting. So if you extend Lamar, you're committing to the middle, because you can't win a playoff game, and he can't stay healthy in December. And so what's happened? You missed the playoffs one of those years. But you missed the playoffs one of those years because Lamar missed the second half of the season. This year is him in the pocket getting hit. It wasn't even him rushing. Okay? And if you go and take a step back and you move on from Lamar, now you have a young rookie quarterback that maybe doesn't hit, but at least you're not committing that $40 million, because once you do, you are investing fully in that quarterback. And we see, like I said before, this asset is depreciating. That's what he is. I'm not trying to say that to be disrespectful, but when you make this type of contract, you're not going to want to pay him for what he did. It has to be at large what he's going to bring to you. So it's a tough decision to make, yes, because hitting a quarterback is very tough.
Well, that's why I say you'll be stuck in purgatory, quite like how your Steelers have been in the middle of the pack for the longest now, because you haven't had a guy to elevate you under center. You're telling me if the Steelers didn't have a Lamar Jackson?
Realistically, had a tough time because you're paying Ben $40 million, and that cap hit sunk into the rest of the roster while Ben was average. Now we have Kenny Pickett. We could be a riser into the playoffs with 10, 11 wins because Kenny's making nothing, and he's also a young quarterback that brings that oomph. So you see the difference here?
I hear you. I just really don't think that, like I said, it doesn't need to be a perfect scenario for Lamar to win a playoff game. I just think you need to do a little bit more.
And this guy's got 55% completion percentage in the playoffs. He's got to get better as a passer.
He does have to get better, and I think he'd be the first person to say that. We're not talking to the wall here. He'd be the first person to say that. It's just if you let go of a Lamar Jackson and you're gonna trade him, if you're not making a power play for one of the big quarterbacks going into the draft now,
Well, now
then
that they have Todd Monken in here, I don't even know if they go with an Anthony Richardson. I think they would maybe hold off because there's no quarterback in this draft I'll look at for them. So that'd be a good fit. If you're not trading up for Will Levis, I don't even think he's gonna be that good of a prospect. So
Yeah, obviously you're looking to probably get yourself a bridge quarterback for maybe next year or the year after. But you can get a pretty damn good haul for Lamar. I mean, like, the Giants are out there. I just saw a freaking report that popped up that said the expectations is Daniel Jones might get $35 million a year. You don't think that the Giants would inquire about trading for Lamar and pay him that even a little more money and get Lamar instead of paying Daniel that much? I think they would. Again, I think the Titans would consider it. And you could do a swap where you include Ryan Tannehill in that trade and the Ravens get their bridge quarterback. And then I'm not saying he's not taking them over that, but you get your bridge quarterback who can do a fine game managing role until you find your other quarterback.
that really sits behind Tannehill for a year.
Yeah.
And Jay Ray, I'm gonna ask you too, Breesy, both of you guys. If you could offer the first round pick for Lamar, let's say the Giants offer their first round pick, would you make that and say yes this offseason?
For one first round pick?
One?
Yeah, one first
No.
round pick.
No.
The hell no.
Bare minimum, I'll go 2 firsts, maybe a second or a third and a player, but I'm not doing one first round pick for Lamar. Get out of here. Do you see what Deshaun Watson went for?
That's a great point, but Deshaun Watson's kind of like the Rudy Gobert trade, where we just ignore everything the Browns and the Timberwolves do, and we look at the rest of the league and we say that's the market.
I mean, also Rodgers, if he facilitates a trade, that'll also impact the trade market too.
You are right. I mean, Lamar, you'd think should get two firsts, but if the Ravens aren't going to extend him because of all these concerns, which are huge, it's not throwing the football, it is health, it is long-term durability. That's 3 big X factors. I mean, in the playoffs, he has 1 playoff win. Let's repeat that.
So you would
not
trade,
a quarterback.
You would trade
I want
Lamar
to guarantee 220.
for just
yes, I would
pick?
easily trade Lamar for
one
pick. If that were, I would try to get 2. Obviously, I'd try to get 3.
3.
If I can't get 2 first rounders and I have a deal on the table, 20th overall pick for Lamar Jackson, I would heavily consider it. Heavily. Now it depends on what the Ravens want to do here at Todd Monken because they add him into the equation. We don't necessarily know what their plans are ahead of the NFL draft, but that'll be interesting.
Grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Well, it's not green right now with Lamar. It's not.
To the Ravens. Dude, it's been pretty green. They've been winning
last 2
football
years
games.
It's been
Yeah,
green, huh?
He's gotten hurt. Okay.
Last time I played my Steelers, I was there 18 months ago. So clearly he hasn't been too available.
Like things happen. It's football. You play an aggressive sport. If he comes out healthy next year and he plays a full season, you're telling me the Ravens aren't going into the playoffs?
You're telling me he's playing a full 17-game season next year?
If he's healthy, John, he has a home playoff game
here. This is not Anthony Davis BS. Will he be healthy next December after playing 13 games? What do you think? We'll come back to this conversation in 12 months.
So yeah, you know what? Let's do it because I would put my money on it right now. Right now.
He's never played a full season, Justin.
He will lead the Ravens to the playoffs and they'll win a playoff game.
You better hope if they're going to extend him, he can lead him to the playoffs. Right?
He needs to get extended first. But if he's in a Ravens uniform next year, they'll be fine.
Until December comes around?
They should have.
Because, I mean, he's great in September and October, but when it comes to actually going somewhere, bringing the Ravens someplace, in 5 years, we have 1 playoff win.
What's your best fit for Lamar outside of Baltimore? If he's going anywhere.
Tennessee's interesting, but
Atlanta?
No.
They have a real good offensive line. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for one of the best O-lines that can keep him protected with high-level weapons. Atlanta's going to run too much into the ground. I
like Titans. I like the Giants. I'm only picking them because they have 2 elite running backs, and that would just be a deadly duo with Lamar.
I think the Jets, their defense is elite. They have a superstar wide receiver. Hopefully, Mekhi Becton will be healthy. So, Jets are
Raiders would cap. Their cap hit would be insane if they have to pay Lamar.
Yeah. So, outside of that, for the Ravens, is there anything else we can hit on? Marcus Peters, that's a pretty important, notable unrestricted free agent. So his market value is right around $9 million per season for 2 years. And Justin Houston, this is per spot rack, give or take 5. He had a very good season. This Ravens defense is special. And I feel like that's why I was frustrated with Lamar this year. Not at him per se, but disappointed I'm like, he's injured again? Because this defense was top 5 in the league since Roquan came in. I mean, Patrick Queen got much better. And when you talk about they've had in the secondary, their defensive coordinator did a great job this year in his first time with the team. And I feel like the only thing that's held this team back is injuries. Not just for Lamar, but for Ronnie Stanley at left tackle. That's definitely played a role in Lamar having more of these injuries. The offensive line has not been where it was in 2019. You look at the running backs. J.K. Dobbins coming off the torn ACL. I think he'll be closer back to that rookie version of himself in 2023.
Yeah.
That was a mouthful right there. I'm sorry. I know this video was so much about Lamar. That's the only question it feels like with the Ravens right now. But this is a really good football team.
What is crazy, John, though, is that, I mean, if you really are honest and look at it, Lamar the last 2 seasons does not deserve $200+ million. I mean, his only argument is what he did in his second season and his third season.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. And those were
phenomenal teams.
4 years ago, though. At this point, 4 years ago, like your last 2 seasons, it's called you got to update your resume on a weekly basis and a yearly base. Like the last 2 seasons of, I mean, dude, last year you threw 16 touchdowns and 13 interceptions.
Mm-hmm. No, we have to take into account the rushing, but even still, that's going to play into
his rushing was down too, though.
Yeah,
because he didn't play the games. He missed 5 games 5 last year and 5 this year. He missed.
And believe me, I love Lamar too. I enjoy watching Lamar play, and I think he's a winner. But he's also a player that I'm not good. I'm not paying the money. I don't want to give him 220. That's my money. I'm not been into that. I've seen this in the past before. So, with all that being said, the Ravens this year, I think our expectations were tempered, and they're right around that mark. Go to the first round, give the Bengals a fight, come up short because Lamar is not in the game. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers were a team coming this season that I said, I wish I could roll the clip. I wish I could roll the clip. You know what? I probably will. They're easily a playoff team. Now, when we first started this podcast, I didn't know what I was doing. So a lot of people in comments were like, is this how this moron talks? Like, he's talking like some fucking idiot. So since then, I've gotten a little bit better at this podcasting thing. We have a good amount of Steeler fans around here that a lot of them were talking trash to you guys in the comment section. I don't know if I want to read off the comments to you guys to run a little victory lap per se, but I do know we have to talk about the Steelers offseason preview. Take a deep dive, not a deep dive, but a deep look into their offseason and how things went for them in 2021. Do you guys care to read the comments on that video? The top 2? They're all supporting me, so I mean, shout out to them.
If you want to take your victory lap, John, that's your prerogative.
Why would I take a victory lap? I was wrong, missed the playoffs.
I was wrong too.
Well, what do you mean? Oh, I thought you were just okay. I mean, I misunderstood
None of us are right.
you. I misunderstood you then. So you're about to read comments that take shots at you?
At you guys.
What the hell are we talking about here? So why are you going to read them if you were wrong and they're going to trash us? So now we're all going to feel like crap?
No, they're trashing you guys because you were like, they're not making the playoffs.
Well, they didn't make the playoffs. We
exactly.
Right.
So
because you were talking about them making the playoffs with Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, you were like Mitchell.
Let's not forget that. That was the reason why we got on you. Because me and Brandon were laughing.
All right, let's talk about it. So
Mitchell Trubisky, you thought was leading your team to the playoffs.
I was wrong about Mitch. I didn't think Mitch could get worse than a Chicago tenure, but boy, was that boy cold. He had a couple of good moments. He beat Tom Brady, of course, at Heinz Field, coming in, relieving Kenny Pickett. That was his best moment as a Steeler, and it may be his only because he's making $7.5 million. And to me, I would rather have Mason Rudolph as my backup. That is not the most important conversation with the Steelers. It is impressive to me. The Steelers won 9 games in 2021. Shout out to Mike Tomlin. In spite of Najee Harris for the first half of the season having no get-off, playing with a middle steel rod in his foot to deal with a foot injury. And then TJ Watt, who had a monster week 1, misses over half the season, and when he comes back was not the defensive player of the year we saw a year ago. Those are your 2 most important players on each side of the ball, and they had a better record than the Browns still. That's one of our down years. So for Pittsburgh, did they make the playoffs? No. But man, if those damn Dolphins could have beat if those damn Jets could have beat Skylar Thompson, the Steelers would have been in the playoffs. We would have got knocked out in the first round. So this offseason, the Steelers do have a couple of questions, And I want to hit those in the head. Before we get to that, what were your guys' takeaways, your spin on the Steelers 2021 season?
Well,
Impressed.
but yeah, I mean, like, another feather in Mike Tomlin's cap.
Mhm.
I've never doubted Mike Tomlin. I doubted the team that was surrounding him and that he had on the field, but I didn't doubt Mike Tomlin. So yeah, impressive. He was able to do it again. Yeah, I would like I gave Kenny some praise this season. He's making small steps to get better every time, but we are gonna have to be objective. He didn't play particularly well. The numbers don't they don't look at you.
Numbers don't bear that out,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
no. You're like, those numbers are not good. But we've seen quarterbacks have struggles early, and then they're able to flip the script. So it's gonna take. It might take a little time, like I said with Kenny Pickett, or it might be a quick jump, like a couple other quarterbacks we've seen over the years. So we don't know. We're gonna see. But I do like Kenny Pickett, but we're gonna have to see going forward what Kenny Pickett really is. Because now going into his second season, he's going to be the starting quarterback from week 1. All right. You're not going to have questions about, chemistry, playing together, and all the continuity and all that stuff. You got that. All right. You play with Deontay Johnson. Chase Claypool's out of there. You got Najee. You got Freiermuth, your boy.
Matt Canada.
Well, I mean,
Yep, he's still there, unfortunately.
He actually did a good job later in the season.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it then. You gonna eat crow about Matt Canada?
Oh no, believe me, you. Him and Joe Barry should be long gone. Him and Joe Barry from Green Bay.
I think your Steelers are in a good spot. I think what they were, let's see if I'm reading this correctly, 5-1 in their last 6 games of the season.
7-2 since the trade deadline.
So I mean, Kenny Pickett, while he didn't light the world on fire, he did make some throws that I forgot what game it was, but he made a crazy throw on the run into the end zone.
Which game winner was that? The one versus the Ravens or the one versus the Raiders to George Pickens? The
I
Ravens.
think it was the one against the
with
Raiders.
Najee.
I think it was the one against the Raiders where he was almost going down to the ground, made the throw.
He had a lot of game winners.
Yeah, he did. It was a sick throw, but I mean, I think you guys are in a good spot. Like I said, Mike Tomlin is one of the best coaches in football, and as long as he's there, you guys are always going to field a competitive team. So the real question is Kenny Pickett going to take that next step? Because you have a guy in George Pickens that is capable of being very, very special. I'm talking about a true go-getter of the football. So if he's developing, if Kenny Pickett is developing, if Najee is healthy, I mean Deontay Johnson, I don't see him punching Kenny Pickett in the face. So I don't know if
that report was true.
I don't know if it was true either, but it was wild. But it was absolutely wild. So if they're all meshed, and I truly believe that the Steelers are probably the best team when it comes to drafting wide receivers. They just know how to develop them. They know how to pick them. No pun intended. So I really think that you guys are going to be in a good spot. Like you said, 7-2 from the trade deadline. If you guys start next season off hot, I think you guys are going to be giving Cincinnati and Baltimore a run for their money.
So DJ denied that report. That was in the Jet game where Mitch had a terrible first half. He actually threw a touchdown on Deontay, but Johnson had 0 touchdowns this season. He had 2 plays where he didn't get his foot in bounds. So I agree with you guys. Kenny Pickett is turning 25 years old this June.
I'm turning 25 in April. Damn.
We just talked about Lamar Jackson before. Lamar is just 1 year older. He's been in the NFL for 5 years. So Kenny Pickett is the biggest question with the Steelers organization. If he takes a step forward in year 2, you have a good feeling because we saw a lot of positives. Early in the year, he took a lot of shots, and for a Steelers offense that was deplorable, I think he was going to take some opportunities, and he kind of read the room a little bit with Mitch. He was passive. He didn't take those opportunities, and I felt like they kind of opened up the studio space to Kenny. By the end of the year, he showed a lot of positives. Number one, confidence. He's not Kirk Cousins. He hasn't folded under pressure, and we saw as the year went on, he had 0 turnovers in the second half of the year, at least 0 interceptions, and his accuracy got better and better. His biggest issue was for a guy that doesn't have an elite skill, right? Doesn't have the elite arm strength, doesn't have the elite athleticism. Joe Burrow has elite pocket presence. Tom Brady, all time, right? Patrick Mahomes, too, and he has all the other things. Kenny Pickett's pocket feel needs to develop where he can stay comfortable and composed in the pocket. Sometimes he'll get dancy feet and dip out when he had more and more time. And he lost some meat on the bone. If he can build on that, I think his 184 passing yards per game, which was a little bit misconstrued because he left 2 games early with a concussion and a 30 came in the halftime. So around like 200 yards, give or take, per game. 210. I'm pretty confident that, man, this is going to be a good quarterback. Will he be top 10? That might be a stretch for a guy that came into the league so late. But the good news for the Steelers is we see quick turnarounds every year in the NFL. And the Jaguars are a recent example of that. You have 4 years of Kenny if he's really good on a rookie contract. With a defense next year, if TJ Watt stays healthy, which believe me is a massive if, that's going to be a top 5 unit. If he's not healthy, we're seeing Alex Highsmith develop into a #1 outside linebacker. And that was my biggest takeaway this year. Highsmith was snubbed from the Pro Bowl. The guy finished with, what is this? 14.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles. That's the best outside linebacker duo the Steelers have had since they went to the Super Bowl in 2010. Secondary is a big question with this team. William Jackson was a player they had midseason, didn't play. And they also have a big-time free agent, Cam Sutton. Great corner. Really good. And he might get poached from a team like the Vikings, who had in Brian Flores to be their DC. Former Steelers linebackers coach. Flores did a great job this year. One player he unfortunately could not save was Miles Jack. He came in from Jacksonville, and we expected him in Pittsburgh to be a true #1 outside linebacker. And by the end of the season, he and Devin Bush were both not playing. Guys like Robert Spillane, an undrafted free agent, and Mark Robinson, we're talking about Lamar before, I liked out of Ole Miss, took bigger and bigger roles. The Steelers have some holes defensively, cornerback, linebacker, but they have 3 picks in the top 50. They have 2 in the top 32. This is going to be a big offseason, not only for Kenny Pickett's development, but a first-time general manager in Omar Khan, who was more of a cap guy. He brought in an assistant GM named Andy Weidel from Philadelphia. Now, the Eagles, they built a Super Bowl winning team with Weidel being Howie Roseman's right-hand man, but what they won't tell you is that the Eagles in those years didn't draft very well at a place like wide receiver. Jalen Rieger, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. So, Jared, they can develop these guys, but if Andy Weidel coming in, I hope he doesn't touch any of these receivers on the board. Whatever he does, just do the opposite. But I do think Weidel can kind of provide a new spark here to this front office. I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm not going to discriminate because of his time in Philadelphia, where he may not be making the draft decisions.
So, question before we move on.
Yep.
What does Kenny Pickett need to be for the Steelers to actually contend? Because I think we could all be in agreement. He's not going to be Trevor Lawrence.
No.
He's not he's not Mahomes. He's not Justin Herbert. So, what is it that he can be to lead Pittsburgh to the Super Bowl?
He needs to develop and maximize everything he can control. So he can run when he needs to, and he can make plays out of structure. We need him to throw for 4,000 yards next season, and we need him to stay healthy. Like I said before, he left 2 games early. The Ravens and the Buccaneers with concussions. We can't have any more concussions. That's a big concern. So with Tua, obviously you're praying for this man's health. I love Kenny. I'm a big fan of him. But that's going to be a big thing. Can he stay healthy? Can he avoid those concussion issues? He actually changed his helmet. And the second thing would be increasing that level of productivity and also dial back the turnovers. Now, not all of his, 7 interceptions were turnover worthy. But, there were many plays where he got away with a dropped interception or 2. I think that, to answer your question, Justin, is the biggest thing. He had, 6 touchdown passes? Now, he had a couple rushing. He had some quarterback sneaks. I just want to make sure this is correct. With Matt Canada as our offensive coordinator, I made a mistake. So a 7 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Earlier in the year, 7 interceptions.
2 games with 3. So
2 games with 3. Yep, right. The Jets and the Dolphins. Now those kind of snowballed a little bit. Oh man, I'm just worried about Matt Canada kind of putting a seal on this offense. There's no creativity. It's pretty predictable, and those 2 things are pretty imperative for a play caller. So Kenny has to overcome that as well here, which is a big gamble. Big gamble.
I think Kenny's ceiling is borderline top 10 quarterback, kind of like a Dak Prescott type.
Okay, that's pretty high. I didn't expect you to go that high.
No, I don't. He's not that now. I think that is
No,
his.
but that
Yeah.
ceiling, yeah, no, I didn't expect you to say that. That's
Well, I mean, he's a prototype. Like when you look at it, think of a quarterback. Kenny Pickett is what a prototypical quarterback would look like.
true.
He took very good. If you look at his college years, his 3 first years weren't anything to look at. But then he took that massive jump in his
Mhm.
4th year. So that showed that with consistency,
Some
sustainability,
maturation,
he
yeah.
can get better.
Yeah, he took a gamble too. He could have went to the draft and been a 7th round pick in 2020. He came out a year later, took the gamble on himself. Historical season, historical run at Pitt, shattering Dan Marino's records in his 5th year as a 5th year starter, and then he's the first quarterback taken off the board. I know I said a lot right there. Too long, didn't want to listen to John. Matt Canada needs to go out to this season because he did a good job because Najee was running the ball better. This offensive line for the Steelers has come together as well too. With the first pick in the draft the Steelers have, they need to go left tackle or cornerback because Dan Moore is not good in pass protection. I like to see him move to guard because he's a pretty good run blocker, just terrible penalties, untimely of course, and then he's just not reliable as a blind side. The second thing, if Canada doesn't get better, you got to find somebody who can actually support this quarterback. And for Pickett, this year will probably determine whether or not he's the franchise guy in Pittsburgh. I like to think he is, but we need to see steady growth with these quarterbacks. We saw some of it from Kenny, but 13 games is not quite a large enough sample size yet.
Looking forward to seeing him develop next year. I want to
Me
see
too.
what they have in store.
Yeah, one guy that's developed real quick, Justin, is Jalen Brunson. Now, we had like 4 different Jalen Brunson topics in the show. I don't want to make it too long like some of the others. So we've gotten to a point with Jalen Brunson, Justin, where after being snubbed from the All-Star game, the guy is averaging 32 points per game and a career high 24 per night. As a Knicks fan, you've seen point guards come and go again and again. We know this is the best point guard we've had in New York for the Knicks since the turn of the century, right?
Mm.
But have we now gone to a point where Jalen Brunson could lead the Knicks to something more? He's not just the star of New York, but maybe he can lead them out the first round here. Because you're hearing some New York radio. I want to hear what your takeaway was and what that specific New York radio take entailed.
So I'm a big WFAN guy, and there's a show that right before Evan and I think it's Evan Roberts and Greg Carton in the afternoon. It's Tiki and Tierney. Love listening to those guys. And they were talking. I just turned on my radio yesterday on my way to the gym, and they're talking about the Knicks potentially making a run for the Eastern Conference Finals. And as a Knicks fan, I try not to get sucked into that because I don't want to get my hopes up. And I've learned over and over again as a Knicks fan never to get my hopes up because they'll always let me down. But it did make me think. Because when you look at the Eastern Conference, you look at the landscape, you see Kyrie and KD now out. The Knicks just broke an 11-game losing streak to the Nets now since that trade. I'd say there's nobody in the Eastern Conference, I guess, that necessarily frightens you. Everybody seems to be beatable. I mean, I respect the Boston Celtics. I respect the Milwaukee Bucks. I respect the Sixers and Cleveland. But the Knicks have played them all competitively this season. And while, yeah, I get it, the playoffs are a different beast. It's a different animal. It's the same thing for those teams as well. You just never know. And I've said this countless times on this show. You get into the playoffs, a lot of things can happen. All it takes is just one team to get hot, and that'll burst your bubble, and a top seed is out of the playoffs because they took a team and they took an opponent too lightly. And that's kind of how I see the playoffs. It can shake out in the Knicks' favor. Do I see us getting to the Eastern Conference Finals? No. Do I see us getting out of the first round? Yes, that I do. Now, to touch on your Jalen Brunson point, I think Jalen Brunson is averaging 23.8 points per game, if I'm not mistaken. That is the most a Knicks point guard has ever averaged in the history of our franchise. So that is saying a lot already. What we got out of Jalen Brunson, when we paid him, some Knicks fans are saying, oh, we overpaid him. I was even skeptical of the signing because I felt like we needed more. But he has been all that and more for the Knicks since being snubbed from the All-Star game. Listen to this: 29 points, 26 points, 37 points, 41 points, 21 points, 25 points, 30 points, 38 points, 40 points, 28 points. And I didn't even go through rebounds and assists because it would have just taken up too much time. And his field goal percentage, Jalen Brunson has been everything that we could have asked for and more. And then we made the trade for Josh Hart. In his first game, he had 5 steals that night. The 5th steal wasn't accounted in the stat sheet because the 5th steal was my heart. Uh, Absolutely love what I've gotten to see out of Josh Hart. The perfect guy to the perfect energy guy. He just doesn't do anything that's gonna blow your mind. He's not gonna shoot the lights out, even though he did in his second game with us. He's not gonna be Ray Allen. He's not gonna, you know, kill people on the boards. He doesn't do
Can kill you
anything
on the boards.
too spectacular. But what he does do, he just does every part of the game right.
It's a spark plug.
Yeah, he's a spark plug. He fits into this rotation so well. And there were questions whether or not he would even be able to mesh in the rotation. The way Tibbs has been with the 9-man rotation lately, he found his group. But Josh Hart has fit in seamlessly. The 2 Villanova boys look great. Now it's just about, all right, this second half of the season, let's get our consistent rotation. We're still missing an elite rim protector and Mitch Robinson.
Yeah,
and we've been, I think, 8-6 since he's went down. So if we have been playing solid basketball without him, I could only imagine what we can be when he does get inserted back into the rotation. I think this Knicks team is good, very good, and I think we're capable of shocking a couple people come April and May.
So I hear your points, Justin, and it's great, phenomenal. But I will tell you this: we're again, full disclosure, we're playing the hypothetical game. We're looking at all teams being completely healthy and their peaker powers in the playoffs. Okay, that's just the best way to do it. You're not competing with Boston. You're not competing with Milwaukee. Let's just get that out of the way, right? Okay.
Currently, they're matched up to play the 76ers.
Play the Sixers, yes. Right now, currently, they're matched up to play the 76ers. That I think will 100% change because I still think Brooklyn is going to take a. I think Brooklyn will be in the play-in. I do think Miami. This is what I think. I think it's going to be Boston, not in any particular. Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, Cleveland, New York, and Miami are going to be your
top 6
playoff teams, and then Brooklyn, Atlanta, Toronto, Washington, maybe Chicago, and Indy get in as a play-in teams. A pair 4 of those teams.
If that's the case, yeah, that would pair us together probably 5 and 6.
If you're 4 or we're 4 and 5, we would match up in the first round, Miami and New York.
Oh, it's 4 and 5. Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Which isn't happening.
No, that's not happening because you're behind. Yeah, we're basically behind
the Cavaliers,
5-6 games to the
76ers.
Cavs and Philadelphia. So I don't see us catching them. So you're most likely matching up with. It's either going to be us matched up against Cleveland or Philly, or you're matching up with Cleveland or Philly. That's really the matchups we're looking at here. I don't think you're going to beat Philly. I think it's going to be a tough series. I think you can go 6 games with them, but I think Philly gets it done in 6. Cleveland, I think similar. I think you can push Cleveland to 7. I do, but I still think I would take Cleveland winning that 7th game. And if by some miracle you match up with Miami, I know it's not really possible, but if some miracle happens, whatever, somebody slips on a banana peel, I do think Miami can beat you in a 7-game series. I do. I know you've had our number last couple games or whatever in the regular season this year, but again, like you said, it's the regular season. Teams play different in the playoffs. You know, Jimmy is a definitive top 10 player in the playoffs. So it's just going to be a different animal. And I don't think that you're going to, especially with Coach Spo. Yeah, you're not beating us in the playoffs. It'll go 7. It'll go 7, Justin. I'll give you that respect. It will go 7. But I don't think you beat us.
The Knicks have had Cleveland's number the last 2 times as well.
In the playoffs or regular season?
In the regular season so far. I'm talking this year.
Yeah, now the team has made the playoffs last 2 years. We have to discuss, or I guess the last 1 year. The Heat are funny because they were the best shooting team in percentage last year from 3. This year they're 28th. So they are a different team than where they were the last 2 years. Now, with the Knicks, Justin, many people hated the Josh Hart trade because he couldn't shoot in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
I was many people. And he has been phenomenal in the Knicks uniform. 64% through 3 in 3 games from 3. And he also, you said before, he hasn't had that elite skill. He might be the best guard defender in the NBA. And it's such a superfluous, random, kind of irrelevant skill. But for a player like him that tries so hard defensively, when he's making shots, he's a great transition player. You can never have too many Villanova guys. And I like to feel like when your team doesn't have that superstar, you need as many gritty players as you can get. And that's what Josh Hart is. Jalen Brunson this year, fun fact, guys. 2 years ago, Jalen Brunson was getting benched in a series versus the Clippers because he brought no defensive versatility. Today, less than 2 years later, he is second in the league in contested three-point attempts. Number one is Evan Mobley of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He is second in charges behind only Kenrich Williams with 22 on the season. Jalen Brunson has been one of the better defenders on a Knicks defense that isn't very good. But here's the thing. Who would have thought coming into the season that the Knicks would have a top 6 offense through 55 games? Mm-hmm. Not a soul. Not a single soul. And that is because Jalen Brunson has been every bit an all-star the Knicks paid him to be. When you look at this offseason, moves like DeJounte Murray, where you're getting up 3 first-rounders for a mid-starting point guard, is a joke relative to signing Jalen Brunson for cap space. Jalen has been a top 10 point guard. And when you stack him up to veterans like Fred VanVleet and Chris Paul, guys that have proven it in more seasons, I would rather have Jalen Brunson over all those guys because he's 26 years old and still developing. He is one of the craftiest ball handlers. His bag, I was talking about my buddy River Brown, pick aside, it's one of the deepest in the NBA. He's got a killer crossover. And for a player you don't look at as athletic, he has one of the quickest first steps in the game, oh, yeah. Justin. You see all the time. He hits you with that cross, a little in and out dribble. He would give Mikal Bridges, his former Villanova teammate, with it the other night versus the Nets before Mikal last night had 45. I think Brunson is the best player on this Knicks team. And because you have him in the fold, the same way he beat Donovan Mitchell in a 3-game series last year, 2-1 with no Luka Doncic, I don't think it's crazy to say this Knicks team could take the Cavs 7 games. I think it's very realistic, given how well he has played.
I will say this, Justin. I know I clown the Knicks and whatnot. We have fun. We have fun, right? We have fun. But I will say, the Knicks, in all serious, the Knicks are building a very good base for a championship team, right? I think you understand what you're missing, and it's that superstar. Mm-hmm. I would hope you understand that I don't think you're going to get any of the top 5 players currently playing right now. Maybe not even any of the top 10 players, unless you can name one out there. So that's where my trouble comes in, where you have the base, you're building a base. You've got those players that you would love on a championship team that John talks about, the gritty guys, 3-and-D guys. The guys will do the dirty work and whatnot. You got the Jalen Brunson, who will make these spark plays and can take over a game. But what you're missing is that superstar. And I just don't see a path where the Knicks can get that superstar in the next year or two and capitalize on what they currently have right now. Mm-hmm. That's my issue.
I'd say the only thing that would benefit the Knicks in that regard is no more big super teams, no more big threes. I think we have a chance when, there's a couple duos out there. I mean, we have our own little duo there. And like I said, it's more so about who gets hot. Julius Randle's a top 10 MVP candidate right now. And while we don't look at him, no, he in the voting, he is.
I don't care.
But Jalen Brunson's the most valuable player in that next team.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking more about like what's the percentage? He's actually odds on in the top 10.
Well, those voters are tripping because Jalen Brunson's better and more.
I get that, but Julius Randle has also had probably a better year than his All-NBA season that he had a couple seasons ago.
Well, yeah, in his All-NBA season, you guys are 23rd in offense. Now you're top 6.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like he's a better player now than he was then. So you got to give Julius his credit too, because you can't have Jalen Brunson playing that well without Julius Randle complimenting. They both benefit from each other. So,
but that's what I'm saying, Justin. Like, yeah, you have your little duo, but they don't match up against a duo like if Middleton and Giannis are fully healthy. They don't match up.
I hear that.
Brown and Tatum. So that's the problem. And I don't think they even match up with Harden and then Embiid.
No, but
so
that's it's more about now. It's just the pieces that you have around it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like who? Because you got to be objective. You got to your window is short, like we all talk about in sports. You have a short window with this team that you're building this base and fundamental with, but you need that top 5, top 10.
You need that star.
Who is Justin, that guy? I need a, and I don't see a path.
I don't have a name, so I can't.
And I think that's the good news. What sucks is that I think this Knicks team will be remembered as a pretty damn good team that just needed one thing to get them over the top, and now they're gonna have to start over from scratch.
That could be the case, but this Knicks team has a long runaway here. Justin, you talked about their young core. Emmanuel Quickley's 23 years old, and What do you think with his third-year jump he's taken in some ways?
He's gotten better and better. I've always felt like IQ. Honestly, if we didn't sign Brunson, I was more than happy with having him start the season as our starting point guard, just to force him to develop. Because Tibbs, used to mess around with minutes so many times, but now getting to see IQ play more and more, and even get out there with the starters too. He's a firecracker, man. He can light you up from deep, but he's grabbing boards. He's playmaking. He's getting his assists. And defensively, with him and Grimes on the floor defensively, they're locking dudes up.
Cookie jar.
Exactly. So I'm super excited with this Knicks group. We're young, so I understand what you guys say. The window is very small, but
It's not small.
it's not as that's the thing. It's not as
not at all
bad as you're saying, Brandon. We got a very young group. Nobody's gonna be paid out the ass. I'm sorry, nobody's lighting it up.
Rotation player is Julius Randle. He's 28. That's their oldest rotation player. What are you doing the small? What do you mean?
Mitch is our longest tenured Nick, and we just extended him. We extended RJ, and RJ is probably our most movable piece at the moment. If we get a star, I don't know if there's a star out there for us, but
see, again,
a lot of things change in the offseason.
I'm literally talking 3 to 5 years from now. Who is that star that's going to come available to capitalize?
But see, that's the thing.
It's unpredictable.
It's unpredictable because you don't know what goes on in the West that goes downhill, and the next thing you know, somebody's available. You never know.
Stars move every offseason.
I mean, I don't see it.
You never see it.
What if Kawhi got tired?
We don't see it until it happens.
Is Jokic and I wouldn't.
Did we expect Donovan Mitchell to be moved after 4 years in Utah? No, we didn't.
What you said Donovan Mitchell? Yes, we expected him. He'd been on the trade block. Everybody was calling for Mitchell to leave.
Within 4 years, no one expected that. And the same thing goes for Kevin Durant. All of these stars, when things don't go well,
I was telling you. I was literally telling you.
You told us all about them. But not everybody saw that. So we'll see.
They should have saw it. If you're a great player like that and you see that your team's you're not going anywhere, then you got to go and make yourself give yourself a better shot.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. Like, tell me who is Jokic leaving? Is Jamal Murray leaving?
Within 2 years, the Jazz went from a number 1 seed to what's now a rebuilding team. And then the Nets, they went from a absolute heavyweight to a team that is now rebuilding. It's hard to predict.
That's what I'm saying. The Knicks can go they can either go up or they can go down. So that's what I'm saying. You can't predict that. But I'm just saying, tell me, there's not a guy that's going to become available. I'm sorry, I can't.
I just, like I said, that is unpredictable.
It's easy for you to say.
You never know.
I don't never know.
So.
And then the thing is, and then
none of us know.
And then we're taking into account.
I can't think of a name right now that we didn't know ahead of time that wanted to be out, unless you can name me.
Damian
one.
Lillard.
What if we drafted one?
Who's the superstar that you think is? You think Wembanyama? You're not getting Wembanyama.
Did you think Donovan Mitchell was going to be a superstar?
13th pick.
I don't watch college basketball, Justin. So
but that's my point. That there's been players in the league now that have been drafted.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Like, think about a guy like Halliburton that we could have had over Obi Toppin.
He's top 10.
He's not a superstar though.
Oh, he is a franchise point guard.
He's not a superstar.
He's a franchise guy, and he's how old? 23.
Yeah, he's averaging 20 and 10 this year.
Right,
so that's superstar like numbers to me. But he will be. But you just never know who's going to be available. We've developed our young players pretty well. If we, next thing you know, we could draft somebody that might take that step. That would be my dream for us to draft and start in house. I think that's everybody's dream.
Difficult, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. But with all the picks that we have, if we have to trade up for somebody that we feel very confident in, I'm sure we can. We'll see.
Sorry for interrupting a little bit right there. I love this Knicks direction, Jay. Right? I love Jalen Brunson for this team. And now for IQ, he gets to learn behind him. They've got the right veterans in place, and they've got 3 or 4 young guys here in Emmanuel, RJ, who's more of an asset, Quentin, and then who else am I forgetting here in that mix?
Obi,
yeah,
Jericho.
He should have moved the deadline. Obi should have been moved.
Jericho Sims. I love Sims.
I wish Toppin could play with a guy like Tyrese who could actually get him going and pick and roll some. But Tibbs this is what frustrates me about Tibbs. He just is so old school. He doesn't actually open up the offense to the young guys. total failure on his part to get Obi Toppin going, and that frustrates me in many ways. It irritates me to no end.
Do you guys know what Julius Randle is shooting from three this year?
37.
33.8.
He was at 40 a couple weeks ago.
So
He's a
30
fluctuator.
So
Yeah.
34% basically. So I just saw a report. The only reason I bring it up, I saw a report from Shams. Julius Randle is expected to join the 3-point contest because Anthony Simons suffered an ankle injury, and I'm just laughing like Julius Randle really in a 3-point contest. Okay,
Imagine he wins. Replay this clip.
he's not good.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
He's more of an elbow post up kind of guy.
Yeah.
So, no, I like Julius too. He's had a good season. 25 points at a career high for him. So I'm happy. A career high in New York
Julius.
from 2 as well. He's a good player, man.
Yeah.
I've been eyeing him since he was an LA Laker.
Yeah.
I like Julius.
Always been a player that's developed. He's had his rough patches, but this has been
I
his
liked
highest
him in
volume
Kentucky.
season.
That's
for
when I
him.
actually watched that March Madness. I liked him in Kentucky a lot. He impressed
He's-
the hell out of me with his tenacity, his ability to get those offensive rebounds at a not very
Getting 2 of
decent
those.
height.
2 of those
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. With all that being said, is there anything else you guys like to add onto that?
All I'm gonna say is, guys, get ready. Baseball season is back. Pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training. I got my Yankee gear. I'm ready to
Justin, I'll strike you out.
Yeah, in your dreams.
No, all I gotta say is Justin's gonna be probably a little jealous. I'm going to see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania tonight. I'm super
Tonight?
excited. Opening night, dude. I go every opening night, bro. I'm on it. When the tickets get released, Brandon goes boom, boom. But I'm in.
I'm gonna try and go this weekend.
I'm excited. I can't wait. The kickoff to phase 6, I think.
Yeah.
Let's go. Love Paul Rudd.
With all that being said, I'll wrap up episode number 76 of the Wisecast podcast. Thank you so much for watching, staying to the very end. And as always, we'll see you next time.
Stay classy.